Welcome back to the Culture Crusade. We are here. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, buddy?
I'm getting an echo because I didn't mute the audio in the background. Darn. I'm good now. Sorry. Go ahead.
I thought you were a pro.
Oh, no. I'm really, really not. Oh, wow. What a wild week this has been. And it's all about Snow White. It has been not only wild, but a very entertaining week. And there is a lot to talk about. But before we dive into all the juicy things to follow up on, we have a special guest who will be joining us in a little bit. He is he's a bit of a renegade, somewhat valiant, and he might be joining us shortly. And so I want to hold off on really diving into all the Snow White stuff. And there is so much kind of stuff to really...
Well, it's a good thing I'm here because I didn't watch it and I refused to. So...
Well, that's... it's funny. Like, I get it. And it's a good choice because it's a bad film. But at the same time, this is like, it's prime time for a content creator with Snow White at the moment, because people are more interested in the commentary and discussion around this film than watching the film.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because like how sort of like mid reactionary everything's been for a while. And then like suddenly you throw Snow White in the mix and everybody's like, ah!
Well, the build up for this film is like 2 years in the making.
That's true.
And it's been a disaster along every single moment of it, even almost from the announcement. And how are you, Litdev? Good to see you, mate.
Doing pretty good. So I have my own theory. Okay, so you know how there's been so much controversy, not just like the typical negative controversy from us guys, us evil hater bigots, but the movie has like an unusual amount of turmoil within itself. Like we've heard about it. Oh, it's going to be the Seven Thieves. Oh, it's going to be some dwarves. Actually, it's going to be this. As we heard about reshoots, to the point where the mainstream media was like, "Just release the movie already. Just get it out there." And so, my theory is that it's a very grounded theory, that it's very obvious that the ghost of Walt Disney has been cursing the production of this movie this beginning, because this is not just a movie, right? This is Snow White. This is where it all began. Snow White is where kind of the Disney name was forged upon, the foundation of the entire brand. So if Walt Disney were to come back, Walt Disney's ghost were to come back and haunt any production, it'd probably be like a communist rendition of Snow White.
It's funny you say that, right? Because, like, not necessarily too far from the... Because I'm very religious, I'm Christian, of course, stuff like that. I feel that there is, like, not always, but sometimes the Lord, he might, just let things, guide things to a certain, direction in terms of a type of karmic justice that, look, not always, of course, bad people succeed and good things fail. But in Katana, even if you separate it from, I guess, religion, right? People understand, universal truths, and we gravitate toward those universal truths. And as a result, media usually that plays with them well. I'm not saying it always has to promote it, but usually when they do have like embedded truths in them, people connect with them more. And not necessarily even promotion. Promotion, can uplift people, but even when you kind of play and subvert things in an interesting way, that can have an interesting effect in the storytelling as well. And so much of the activist woke movement is trying to deny basic fundamental realities, like the relationship between men and women, that men and women are different, and we have stereotypical roles that we naturally gravitate towards, both based on our interests and our more generalized characteristics that are more stereotypical of each gender, encourages us to adopt certain roles. And media that kind of understands that, we can connect with better. And this whole Snow White thing has really caused me to reflect deeply on the original animation. And oh my goodness, that original animation is truly just an archetypical stereotype of the feminine role and how they can use that role for power, to gain protection, for multiple things. And it's embedded in that film. And I don't think they necessarily approached it with this, like, psychological, we got to make. I think they just did it naturally because people naturally understood this is the roles and this is what a, innocent but really kind-hearted feminine woman would do in those situations.
Well,
and
based on a fairy tale, it's like 400 years old or something, isn't it?
But even the new things Disney injected into that story, like the more animated dwarves, the individual characteristics, one of the primary arcs in the original Snow White is the relationship between Snow and Grumpy, and how Grumpy distrusts Snow White. He even says, "You got to be careful." I'm paraphrasing, but something along the lines, "You got to be careful of their feminine wiles."
Grumpy knows.
Grumpy's based.
He is, but Snow wins him over by her just pure-hearted goodness and kindness, to the point where Grumpy is the first dwarf that runs to her aid when they find out that Snow's in trouble. And there is a distinct arc in that, and it actually conveys very like archetypical
Grumpy is
role.
Peter.
Sorry?
Grumpy is Peter.
Peter
Part of the Apostles.
Possibly. He doubts, and then he comes to like. But what's also interesting is like she brings civility to the dwarves when she arrives. Now the dwarves, they're living, they're getting by, they're providing for themselves, but their home is a complete wreck. And she doesn't come in with this finger wagging, "You should clean up." She's like, "Oh, maybe if I clean up for them, that'll make them happy." And she does it out of the kindness of her heart. And the dwarves full of notice this when they arrive. They're like, someone's cleaned up. What's going? And they're kind of freaking out because they don't know what's going on at first. But they appreciate it. They actually appreciate these,
because they're single men, so their house has never been clean before.
Exactly, they're single men, right? Snow White offers to fulfill the classic feminine roles for the dwarves. She says she'll homemake for them, she'll cook, she'll clean, and in return they can let her stay there and protect her. What's this mutual exchange that she's offering? It seems really fundamental to the relationships between men and women, and so it is truly archetypical, because it's through in that exchange what Snow White is offering the dwarves, that she is finding her strength and a means to be able to protect herself by helping, stronger men to look after her. But at the same time,
it's like this whole modernity thing, just fighting really, really, really hard to walk away from something that works best and everyone actually just naturally wants.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And remember, these things I'm talking about, they encapsulate the fundamental plot of the original, and this remake rejects it all and tries to subvert it all, which is like truly, I almost think, like diabolical, and also exemplifies and reveals why, in some small measure, there's a lot of reasons why this one is failing, the remake, but I think this absolutely is contributing to it, because the original animation was a timeless classic that people loved for a reason. And I think there are just fundamental truths that people kind of resonate with, and they're not even thinking about. But the arc between Snow and Grumpy, we appreciate, maybe not because we're breaking it apart, but it's just like something that we inherently, subconsciously kind of understand and can enjoy. And Snow even kind of teases Grumpy here and there in a playful way, with him rejecting her in a way that she's trying to encourage him to, like her and open up to her. And that before the witch comes to Snow White to offer her the apple, she's making a pie, and the name that she puts on the pie is Grumpy. And this is this is after Grumpy already kind of comes around to her, because as the dwarves leave, they all line up for a kiss, and is like, the last one to leave.
Big on thought.
But he also takes off his hat and kind of, reluctant, but also wants that, affection from Snow White. Another really good aspect of Snow White, right, in terms of displaying these archetypical roles, is Snow makes them a delicious dinner, and the dwarves are really keen to get into that dinner, and she asks them to show them her hands, and they're all dirty, and she tells them that they need to go wash up. And this is another kind of aspect of Snow bringing a kind of form of civility to these single men who don't really like. Men have a tendency to not look after themselves too much when we're on our own. This is actually recorded. Like men, like go to the doctor far less than women when they're injured or sick or something like that, when they actually need that type of thing.
That's because we don't trust doctors.
but there's also that kind of men thing. It'll be all right, or I can handle it myself. And sometimes no, we need that. And men have a tendency to not kind of order their immediate. Men want to go out into the world and tame the world and bring order to it. But in terms of their immediate surroundings, we're happy to live in a bit of a pigsty. Not all men, but stereotypically, I'm talking about this, right?
I did.
Same with me. My when I was single, I lived and it's funny, like the home that I lived in, I owned. I bought this house, right, and I lived in it as a single man for a time. Then I went off and I got married, and my wife and I moved into that same house. And the difference in that house between when I was single to when I was married is like night and day. Like my wife brought just this beautiful aspect to that house and literally made it a home. And women have that inherent tendency far more often.
There's a reason it's
men.
called the feminine touch.
The feminine, exactly.
I do want to make a point, kind of an anecdote about not going to the doctor. So I was building my fence with my brother, and I was using a table saw, and I jammed my finger into the table saw, and just the bone, it just went bang, right, and like my whole fingertip exploded. You can see it's a little bit shorter, but I just ran in the house and I wrapped it up in paper towels, and then I sat in my chair wondering if it would heal by itself or if I should go to the doctor. It might leave a mark. I don't know. My wife's like, "You're going to the doctor."
Yeah, I have heaps of stories like that. And so like men and women, when we come together, we have complementary roles that benefit one another. And Snow White, the original animation, actually exemplifies that, where she brings like civility and homemaking to the dwarves in a beneficial way, where she encourages them to be cleaner. Go wash your hands before dinner. And the dwarves they're reluctant to it first, but then they come around to it, and this is to their benefit. And it's not she's forcing them; she's offering something in exchange for it. If you go wash your hands, you can have this delicious dinner that I made, by myself without your help, and I'll offer that to you. And it demonstrates this natural exchange between men and women. And it's everything like this is embedded in that original animation, which makes Snow White like genuinely such a brilliant example of the feminine archetype in classical storytelling. She's actually probably one of the most archetypical feminine characters in all like story, if you really break it down, especially in that fairy tales and things, which I find it really interesting that she's the first Disney fairy tale animation that they made. Original Snow White animation saved the company Disney and laid the foundation for its future successes. It was like the thing that made the company what it is today. And it was a big gamble. Like Disney invested so much money into this. And with what you were saying before, Lit Dev, about, the ghost of Disney kind of cursing them, right?
That's what it feels like, yeah.
It feels like, because genuinely, like, I've gained more respect for Disney in hearing the account of what he sacrificed and risked in making Snow White. And he did this thing with the animators, right, where he would pay them a bonus on top of their wage for anyone that came to him with an idea for a gag that they could put into Snow White. And if he liked it, he would give them like, I don't know, $50 or something like that, which in conversion is like a couple of hundred, right? As a bonus for creativity, where instead of like, it seems like in current day Hollywood, there's this one toxic positivity where every idea is good and they don't even qualify it or question it and everything, and all this slop gets put in. And the other one is that they're so desperate to protect themselves that they want to get rid of every other talented people, and they use, underhanded tactics, Me Too allegations, everything to get them fired, and then get other activists that support them hired into the same jobs. And it's a completely different environment where merit isn't being properly rewarded or even rewarded at all. But if you check the right tick boxes and you support the right narrative and you will support them, in their career, instead of making something good, then they will get job security. And it feels like that's what Bob Iger has done in Disney, where he's surrounded himself with yes people who will support him, and he's like just subtly Game of Thrones almost like purged people that could challenge his power or challenge his competence, even though it's not very
Pixar has been a huge part of Disney, probably made them the most money in the last 20 years. Have they done anything good since they Me Too John Lasseter?
Don't know. Like, I think Inside Out 2 is all right. Like, and I think that's Pixar.
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Inside Out 2 was actually pretty all right. It was a
they
had rumors of like, oh, she was going to be lesbian, but there's no evidence of that. It was just, she was a fangirl of this one awesome person. That's about it.
So one good film since Lasseter left.
Book of Grudges says
like leftover, like it probably was still there when that was made, or
possibly. Book of Grudges corrects me; it was $5 that Disney was offering, something like that.
Book of Grudges,
but that was 1938, dude. You could buy a freaking car for that.
Yeah, it's like $100 or something in conversion, right? And so. He actively encouraged his creative team to bring him ideas that he wasn't able to come up with himself. And one of the animators mentioned, like, there's this small little gag where all the dwarves poke their heads into the cottage to find who's sneaking in, and one of the dwarves pokes in underneath the beard, and it's Dopey who pokes underneath the beard. And he was mentioning, like, that was my gag, and Disney loved it. He paid $5 and they added it to the film. And a lot of those little small gags, which are just charming, right? Were added into the film based on that kind of encouragement. And so he worked really well with the creative team. He was open to people bringing their ideas to him. He sacrificed a lot. He mortgaged his own house to finish the film. Okay. Well, and so this was a big, gamble, swing for the fences, because if this movie failed, he would have lost his house. The company would have gone under. Well, like, Disney would be dead. And so
I actually did that myself when I made the first Dr. Alpha book. I put everything on the line for that thing to get funded. Like, I quit my job. Like, I got my savings out. I put all my money on the line to get the book, like the pages out there. And so I had like no money. If that thing failed, I don't know what would happen, but it succeeded. Fortunately.
I love that type of stuff, because it shows actual kind of investment, that you're confident in it, and I genuinely respect that. When I'm hearing all about what Disney really sacrificed, like, this guy genuinely was an innovator, a true creative person who was wanting to create something before making money is a part of it, but the creative aspect came first. He wanted to create something special, and that's what would make it a success. Where Disney, they just want to make money, and creativity is just off to the sidelines now. And also, like, Walt Disney, didn't he? Like, he was pretty patriotic. He loved America, and he
was like a secret agent for the government against communism. He hated communists too,
right? And now Snow White, the current Snow White, literally has an undertoning message of socialism and communism in it. This remake.
Feels like he like the fruits of the land belong to those that work it, or something like that.
Exactly. Like,
it sounds pretty Animal Farm to me.
Yes, like, it's an actual communist utopia, at the beginning of the film. And so Disney has literally become the opposite of what it used to be, right?
Well, that's why I was like, okay,
an ideology that is just the opposite of what Disney would ever want.
His ghost has to be haunting this production. Like,
yes,
they're ruining the first film, the first epic film that he made, the animation that made his company, and they made like a more communist version of it. It's like, okay, well, Walt Disney, if anything, is going to come back and get this one.
Like, they have literally subverted and removed the most core aspects of what Snow White, the original animation, was, in terms of who she was as a character, what she achieved in the character through her own archetypical feminine goodness, and subverted it to, like, the opposite, to have this communist, message where she wants to be a girl boss and she don't need no man, and
the girl she was meant to be.
The girl she was meant to be. I was like,
the new songs they add in are just atrocious. They're just like,
yeah,
I could swear that they just had ChatGPT or something come up with a new song out of older Disney songs, because it like this like the movie feels Frankenstein out of 3 movies. Every new song they add in feels Frankenstein out of other Disney songs. It's like sewn together, but wrongly. Also, they gave the Queen. What's interesting, they give the Queen a villain song. It's awful, but it's very interesting because the Queen wasn't supposed to be about being vain, all about her vanity.
I want to come back to it because Valiant Renegade is going to join us, and I want to go into all of that with Dev.
I found something, very interesting about that part.
You already triggered me on something, and I've already got speaking about Snow White, where I wanted to save it for when our guest comes on, and so we're going to pause it a little bit, and go off to just a side topic that I just wanted to kind of quickly discuss, and then we'll come back to Snow White and really dig into it. And look, like there's just some interesting things that have come out recently in regards to something I'm passionate about. And if you don't like it, I get it, okay? But it's an important thing to kind of discuss in what's being used in media, because it's going to help out.
Doesn't have anything to do with Vegemite, does it?
No. You'll get what I'm talking about, because you're related. You kick this off, Mike, because it's going to help independent creators a lot. And this is important in regards to a lot of things in what's happening. Like there's this tweet that has gone absolutely viral, which I hope that we'll have time to talk about, where author John A. Douglas talked about how there's no books for men. And that has just gone mega viral. And the answer is a lot of the books for men is in the indie sphere, right? And this thing is going to help out the indie creators a lot. And I'm talking about AI generative tools, people. And from the very beginning, I've always said that this is going to be a massive benefit to independent creators. You don't need to be afraid of it. And there's just a couple of things that I think it's worth looking at in the way that this is already helping people out and so on. But guess what? Our guest is already here, but maybe we can still talk about it. How are you, sir? Valiant Renegade joining us.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, we're going to dive into the Snow White stuff, but just briefly, I wanted to actually get to this before you're right, but now you're here, you'll probably be able to discuss a little bit, because there's been some really interesting things in how, and this is what I've been saying for almost years now, is that AI generative tools can really help out independent creators a lot and create a new industry. And Mike, you shared something interesting on Twitter recently, if you remember. This thing right here. What is this, Mike?
Oh yeah. Yeah, a friend of mine, he uses AI and just turns images into little animations, and I'm like, hey, can you do, a couple pages of Lone Star? And this is what he brought back to me. I mean, obviously it's not there yet, but dang, man, pretty soon, 6 months, a year, you're gonna be able to just put your images in, tell them what you want, and you can make cartoons out of your comic books.
Isn't this insane? Like Mike, you don't have the resources to hire animators and
of course not.
to do something like this, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that these tools enable you to see something that you've created, this is your original character, animated, even briefly, I think it's just friggin' brilliant. I think this is just phenomenal. Look at this. Like, this is great.
And I have an animation director friend of mine, Larry. He's like all about, he understands. It's like, get on board or get run over, basically. It's like, and for him doing 2D or even 3D animation, it's like, man, you can, if you're doing a 2D animation now, you can have 1 or 2 or 3 keyframes animated and have AI fill it in. So you have like 32 frames per second of just smooth animation. And it's going to be.
Mike, we're already there. Check this out. This is AI. Like, this is insane. This is actually insane.
It looks better than Lightyear.
Yes, it looks better than Lightyear.
And then what you're going to be able to do is, because obviously this is just gobbledygook with the mouths, but you're going to be able to do voiceover and then have those mouths track with the voiceovers.
Sync it with the voice right away.
And the AI will just do all the voices exactly as. It's going to be pretty.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And this is just like showing the potential of where it's at, but it's moved so fast already, right?
Yeah. Oh, a year from now, it's over. Hollywood's over.
Well, in terms of like this is going to enable independent creators to create so much more. And guess what? It's already happening. Check this out, right?
So, and you know what? Also, you're not even going to have to be like, I'm the independent creator and I have to do everything. Somebody who just knows AI really well will still be able to do a $300 million budget movie for like $3,000, because he's just going to sit there and he's going to know all of it. And you could just, as a director or as an artist, be like, I want you to do all this stuff. And he could just freaking, it's going to cut prices down to nothing.
I have said for years that the people who will benefit most from AI tools are artists that embrace it and use it.
Yes.
Right? Now you get it. No, genuinely, because, sorry, I'll let you explain it.
Well, no, I was having this, and I'm sorry, I'm a little elated with this because it's a great topic. I was having this exact conversation with my oldest daughter just over the weekend. My oldest daughter she's going to be 20 years old this year. I have a almost 20-year-old, an almost 18-year-old daughter, and Renegade Jr. He'll be 14 in a couple of months. My oldest daughter's in college. She is studying animation and graphic design. This is her passion. She's been drawing animation. She was 12 years old. She loves doing this. And we were having a conversation this weekend about AI and saying, oh, Dad, you used AI to create an image on Grok. I'm like, yeah, but here's the thing. I'm not an artist. You are. And I can only do so much with this, but it takes a skilled artist with an artist's mind to actually tell AI what you need it to do to make these gorgeous images and animations. And I told her the same thing. I said, AI it's not your enemy, I think, in the next phase of art. It is your friend. It's a new tool, but it's going to take talented minds like yours, because she gets it from her mother, who got it from her grandmother, who are beautiful artists. And my wife is a vocal instructor. She's a professional musician. So I mean, she comes from a long lineage of artists and musicians. And I'm like, you just got to learn to use this. You can do things with this that the average person cannot do. So if they're not teaching you this in college, if college is telling you that AI is the enemy, then they're looking at this the wrong way.
Yeah, 100%. Like I nowhere near as talented artist as Mike, but I have some, artistic ability. And because of that, I can apply that to AI and make things that most people who use AI that just come to it and choose a generator, it's literally impossible for them to make the stuff that I can make AI, because I put in extra effort and work. And so like these are, for example, drawings, my own drawings that then I have enhanced with AI and colored. And the resulting drawings have much more, I guess, in terms of keeping their structure and design and everything like that. AI, it's so hard for them to make something like, a swept hilt on a sword, for instance, and keep a consistent design. And so that's one example of the things that I can make with AI, but also just general results. Like this is He-Man, right? And you cannot get this result in just a single prompt result. Like this takes multiple efforts, working in Photoshop, regenerating parts at a time, enhancing everything like that, to the point where this quality is way beyond what most people can achieve with AI, because I'm approaching it as an artist and using my artistic ability to get an even better result. And so artists can benefit the best from this stuff. And look at what's happened recently. This is actually kind of crazy. There is a new show out on Netflix, or it's coming out, called House of David. Have you heard of this, guys?
I actually have heard of it. Yeah, I heard it was like Game of Thrones.
It's out, isn't it?
Well, guess what? That is the first major production that has used generative AI tools. And listen what your creator has said on this. You can hear it?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm John. I am creator and co-showrunner of House of David. It is our company, The Wonder Project's first production in collaboration with Amazon and Prime Video. It's on Prime Video right now. To our knowledge, we are the first, or among the first, to use generative AI tools to create some of the scope and scale that would have been otherwise impossible. All the footage that you're seeing right now was made using an AI tool set combined with traditional tools. Specifically, episode 6 represents the first scene in a show that's driven by generative AI tools. Now, many other traditional tools were used in the process. Real actors were used to perform the scene, but this represents a leap forward in technology and what we were able to achieve. These tools are more human and more creative and more collaborative than any other tools that I've ever used in a VFX process. I say that as a showrunner, I say that as an AI artist, and I say that as a former animator. Why am I telling you this? I think much of the fear and discussion around these tools are in two categories.
So I'm smiling because he's saying everything I've been saying for like a year and more now, right? And this is exactly where I was saying where this technology can go and how it can be utilized. And look, those shots, those VFX shots are mind-blowingly cool. Like they look friggin' amazing.
Yeah.
I want to take just a second to note that that 360 no scope with the sling at the beginning, they actually can do that.
Yeah.
I've seen videos of people with a sling doing that jump 360 no scope.
It's shown that it's not just AI. They're using actors. They're using it in a collaborative way with traditional methods
the way
to
it should
enhance.
be used,
Exactly. And so it hasn't robbed people of actors of their jobs or anything like that. It's that when you use these tools, you can enhance your work process to get a much superior result than what you could ever have gotten before with the budget that you're limited to. And he says that. This is what he says.
Number one, will these tools replace creativity and artistry? And number two, will these tools take jobs in our industry? We have found by using them and taking the time to deeply understand them that actually the complete opposite is true. They allow me to be more creative as the showrunner. They allow actors to have more agency into their digital performance. And they allow the core department heads on the show to be able to collaborate on the visual effects because we're actually making the visual effects while we film the show. Of the 850 VFX shots in season 1 of House of David, 73 shots were created using these tools as an engine to the car. These are a new set of paintbrushes that when placed into the hands of artists, especially when they're together and collaborate, allow you to do things that were formerly impossible.
Exactly.
The integration of these tools are going to create jobs in our industry. That's what I feel. The reason is, a show like House of David, many people told us that our vision...
Did you have anything you want to say, Renegade? Just with what is
just watching this, I think back to, I mean, for here in the U.S., you think back, here we are in 2025. I want, for the folks that obviously nobody's alive to remember this, but you can remember the stories growing up in school, if you're my generation especially. Think back to 1925. Think back to when automation came around with Henry Ford, things like this. People thought that this was going to be the assembly line kind of thing. This was going to make people obsolete. We still have people working in automotive factories all over the world today. Even with the robotic arms that do a lot of the physical assembly for precision work, it still takes human beings that are watching and controlling because, like everything that has been done with computer technology since the dawn of that innovation, you have one of two options with computers. It's still a device. It's still a software that has to be programmed by human brains. So you can either have quality in and quality out, or shit in and shit out, and really, or anything in between. But this is the thing with AI. I can go on to Grok, like I said earlier, and I can say, give me a winged silhouetted figure against an orange backdrop with a crowd behind them. It's not going to generate that. Okay? It's going to take an artist that's going to set the stage and input a certain amount of variable data to give it to base itself off of. And then let me ask you, Shad, to my point, that image that you pulled up earlier of He-Man, how long did it take you from start to finish to get that final result?
Probably about 6 hours.
Exactly. That's my point. Most people who are using AI are looking for a 6-second solution, not a 6-hour solution. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, which I've generated some on Grok, right? And they're suitable for what I'm using. But in terms of making true art or making what we're seeing on the screen, making something that actually looks amazing, it's going to take a talented, dedicated artist that is going to drill down a metric shit ton of time to actually create something with AI. And look, instead of it taking, 60 hours for a talented artist to create that image, now for that same talented artist, it takes 6. But the key is, it still takes a talented artist to get it there.
Yeah, and it's
Period.
going to enable more great art to be made, more opportunities for individual artists to have their individual vision manifest, because they don't need a crazy huge team to get these results. It'll make them more competitive, which means that the indie sphere is going to be able to be far more competitive to the blockbuster scale productions. Because when
and on purpose, because Hollywood is trying everything it can to keep AI out of production.
Yeah, they're afraid of it because they know that this is going to, democratize the accessibility to create great art, as we're seeing
The
here.
Hollywood, to be more specific, if you don't mind, the Hollywood unions are trying to keep AI. Let's be abundantly clear on who was lobbying the WGA, the SAG-AFTRA, all those guys. Those were the ones that were lobbying hardcore to keep AI out of Hollywood. You notice the Producers Guild, the PGA, the Directors Guild, they weren't in for that. They didn't go out there saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to strike too to ban this, AI stuff." No, that was the WGA and the SAG-AFTRA stuff. And you're going to see that from some of the others. I think we had the strike last year or this year for IATSE, some of the folks on the production floor. But guys like that have to be on set, they're always going to, you still need physical labor there to make a set function. But in terms of the artistry, that's where things can get a lot more efficient, just like every innovation and every evolution since the dawn of the 20th century has really come around, where technology builds up and it makes the jobs and the lives of the truly talented professionals much easier and more efficient, and they're able to create better things.
You've said something important there, the truly talented individuals, because what I find, a lot of the people that are really like, they despise AI tools and everything like that, are the mid-tier and especially the low-tier artists that can get by in making slop. But
are you disparaging DEI?
But there's like not good, but because that like they're the only ones who can provide this service, they get hired, and then they're really because even they could use AI and make, because like a mid-tier artist can make better AI art than someone who's not using it, and better art than a talented artist that is not using AI tools now, and so. Like those who embrace it can really benefit in a big way. And we'll finish this off what he's saying here, because it's just
a show like House of David. Many people told us that our vision was impossible. What we say at Wonder is we do not compromise, we innovate. If we had listened to the status quo of our industry, House of David never gets made. By making it a budget many people thought was impossible, we're able to employ nearly 700 people. House of David represents a show.
So it enabled him to hire nearly 700 people because the project wouldn't have even gone ahead. They wouldn't be able to pull it off without those tools. And so it's just a great example of what he's saying.
That could not have been made without innovation. Technology and leaps forward in technology are essential to the journey of cinema. So I want to thank Amazon and Prime Video for.
And I think I'm kind of thrilled that, and again, this is confirming what I've been saying for like over a year, if not more now, because this is what it can do. It can enable people to create things they were never able to create before, create new jobs, and I've been saying, AI is not, people aren't going to be replaced by AI. Like artists are not going to be replaced by AI. They're going to be replaced by an artist using AI. That's what's going to happen. It's going to create a new industry that requires people who knows how to use this technology. And
get on board or get run over. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Well,
like, I always compare this to like silversmiths. Back in the old days, only rich people had forks, right?
Yeah.
Because
yes.
And now everybody's you throw them away. It's, oh my gosh, this one's bent. Oh, this one's dirty. It's like. But there's still silversmiths, and they're just making more, unique items.
100%. I have characters and ideas I like for years that I just I can't invest the money to see them depicted in the highest quality because it'll cost too much. But now with AI, I can experiment and create and make and make stuff that. And sometimes just for fun, like maybe I'll create a story around this character, maybe not, but I can just make it now, and it's like really high quality.
That's amazing.
This is one of my favorite ones I've made, actually.
I love that.
Yeah, and I just love what it empowers you to be able to create. And I use this to concept characters that very well might be making graphic novels around. I can give a sneak peek to one perhaps, and I've shown
I just dawned on me. I was talking to Chuck this week, and he's like, "We never got to talk about AI." It was on the roster.
I know. This was the topic that I wanted to go through with Chuck, because I would like to hear his perspective on it. But like, this is actually a character concept for a graphic novel that I want to produce, and now I can actually bring this to someone like Mike and say, "This is the design idea I have. Where do you think we can improve on it? But this is the vision I have." And I've already, funny enough, literally talked with Mike about this character, about what could we do to improve it, and perhaps it's going to be his logo that we can play with and other things like that. But I can show the artist my vision I have in my head, right? Because AI enables me to depict that. And guess what? I would still need an artist, but it means I can bring my ideas to an artist, right, to work with and collaborate with.
Has easily been one of my favorite uses. Is that before the AI stuff, when I was making like the first books, my first books, I was like, okay, I described to the artist what I want him to draw, and it kind of like cobbled together, and he would have to like innovate and see where I wanted to go. Sometimes I would have to physically draw it a little bit, and I'm not a much of an artist in that fashion. But now I can like generate a few images and like whittle it down after a while and say, okay, here's more or less what I'm looking for. It becomes way clearer and way more in sync now than we would have been.
Exactly. And in terms of, even if you can just make a basic sketch, right, that can be the foundation to actually depict the idea you have really, really well. I found the image I was looking at, because this is an example of the basic sketch, right? So this character here, this was the basic sketch, the silhouette, and then I brought him into Photoshop, and that was the kind of concept idea I had for this guy. And then using AI, I was able to get the final result of the character I wanted. Wow. And this is again this is a graphic novel concept that I've talked about already on the thing, for a space opera sci-fi that I want to make as a graphic novel. And again, taking your initial basic kind of concept and then getting something just looks friggin' great at the end of the process.
Yeah, AI is going to be invaluable for concepting, because you could, even if you're just like a game developer or something, and you have an idea, it's like when you're working with a concept artist, it's not your idea. I mean, you're like going through revisions that take hours and hours every revision. You could streamline, just like, oh gosh, I didn't want a cyborg arm, I wanted this, and you're just doing these changes, and they take seconds. It's like, it's so much more streamlined. Concepting is going to be completely taken over by people who know how to use AI.
Well, I think, and that's a big part of it, because look, I come from, my audience knows this, and thank you for the Renegade Nation for showing up if you're out there. But I mean, these guys know that have known me for 4 years on YouTube. I come from a 20 plus year financial planning background. I look at things, we cover Disney earnings calls for Warner Brothers, earnings calls for Paramount, AMC theaters, Comcast, Universal, all these guys. I bring that up because it used to be that before AI, everybody was kind of stuck. If you had a high concept idea, Shad, anybody else out there, if you had this, like you said, you had a concept for a character, a comic book, a movie, a TV show, or like what we just watched, that trailer. if you had something that would involve or need to involve a high degree of VFX, post-production, all this, you were very limited. You were effectively gate-kept because you would have to go pitch this to one of the big 5 studios in Hollywood. You don't have to, because, and this is the big thing, you don't have to have or find financial backers out there that are going to be able to not only give you maybe a 25 or 50 or even $75 million budget for principal photography, but then you would need $100+ million for post-production VFX to make your vision come to reality. Now, AI is going to allow you to do that at a mere fraction of the cost and at maybe an order of magnitude faster at speed. I mean, so this is something that, you know, the big studios out there, they've tried to, I think outwardly they say, oh yeah, AI bad, we still love our artists, but at the same time, we've already seen so many of these big studios start to kind of use AI in the background and not tell you about it, because even they know, look, money talks and poop walks. I mean, the rubber meets the road, and like we've said, it's going to take a legit artist to make this function. But these artists can now make the same thing in a fraction of the time and not have to have a $75 million budget for Industrial Lights and Magic to do it.
Yes, exactly. And it just enables so many individual artists to produce crazy good stuff, either higher quality stuff or stuff of high quality much faster, and also to make their own vision come about. And so it's exciting. It's pretty happy.
There's also a this isn't ubiquitous, but there's also a political divide here. More people on the right are going to be more willing to use AI than people on the left.
Yeah, I actually kind of see that.
That is going to be, we're going to be in the car and they're going to be getting run over situation.
All right, let's switch gears and go back to Snow White and Valiant. So in introducing back to this topic, have you seen Snow White, sir?
Unfortunately, yes, I have. My wonderful chat, my beloved Renegade Nation. I think one of the greatest communities on YouTube. I love them to death, but my God, they tortured me. They sent me a lot of money to make me go see that movie Thursday night. I'm not like almost $1,000 in super chats to force me to go see the movie. So I made good on my promise. I did it. I didn't think they would do it. I made a joke like a month and a half ago. I said, fine, if somebody sends me a $500 super chat, I'll go see it. $800 later, like 30 minutes later, that was done. I did not think anybody would. So yes, I went to go see it. And again, as the father of 2 wonderful daughters, ages 20 and 18 this year, I've grown up with every Disney princess, everything you can imagine, back from the classic, the heady days of Snow White, 1937, all the way through all the classic Disney princesses of Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella, and then up through the modern golden era of Ariel and Belle and all this kind of stuff. Your video a few days ago, Shad, comparing it to Cinderella, I think was very poignant. I know that movie. I never understood why that movie gets a hate in the way it does, and a lot of people do. But I'm like, guys, it's still a Kenneth Branagh movie. He's still one of the most talented guys in Hollywood. He's one of the most brilliant storytellers and directors that have ever existed. I thought the 2015 Cinderella was great. And I am obviously not the target audience, but it was a beautiful story. And I think you were spot on that this new version of Snow White quite literally lacked all of the heart and soul of that 2015 Cinderella. Yeah. And this movie was, there was no character development. There was nothing. There was no setup and payoff. I mean, I know we'll go into details. It's so hard to know where to begin with it. It was cringe from top to bottom. Yeah. It was sterile corporate trash. And it was very clear to me watching and suffering through it that was at least 2 entirely different movies that had been stitched together. I mean, tracking the financial and development and production of that film for nearly 2 years on YouTube. I feel like I'm not trying to, sit here and put the crown on my head, but my God, basically everything that we've been saying for 2 years, and a lot of us, not just me, obviously, It was true. It was all true, and we could all see it when we saw this movie. It was such a dumpster fire.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit before you came on about how the original animation is basically a beautiful archetypical representation of the female archetype, and how Snow White succeeds in that film by being a woman, basically, and embracing her feminine characteristics and being kind-hearted and a homemaker, and that, you know, wins the protection of the dwarves and gets them to defeat the evil queen because they do it to protect her, but she has to win over Grumpy to do it, and so there's an arc there as well, and it resonates. I genuinely believe those truths actually resonate with people, and it's part of the reason why it became a timeless classic, where people who watch it kind of can sometimes see themselves and things. And yeah, this remake just abandons all of that, and it kind of started right from the beginning with almost the resent that modern woke-minded people have towards that classic tale. Rachel Zegler came out of the gate saying that the film is really dated, and it's not about true love, and she falls in love with a man that literally stalks her, and it's like,
Weird.
It is kind of funny for you to say that.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the core heart and soul of Snow White was the true love at first sight, and she's dreaming of a prince and everything. And it'd be kind of strange. You'd be like, well, we're making a Star Wars movie with no, you know, war or force or Jedi or guns or anything. It's like this. Okay, then what's left? Actually,
yeah. And I find it like, you're absolutely right. Okay, and so that is going to alienate the core audience, but at the same time, like, I find it really interesting how activist, woke-minded, progressive people resent a tale of true love. Like, hang on, do you actually dislike the concept of a girl falling in love with a man who's going to look after her, provide and protect her, and save her life?
Have you seen American Liberals? My God, that should explain everything to you.
Exactly what else would be.
the modern day weirdo lefted feminists are like, he should have not have kissed her. He should just let her sleep forever.
He should have asked permission first.
They've attacked the kiss. They've attacked the kiss. That it was she didn't give her consent to be kissed. This has been a narrative that's been going on for a couple of years now.
I think that was one of the added scenes. I think that was part of the. Yes. By the way, if you go to IMDb Pro, they confirm that there were, as registered on IMDb Pro, pickup shoots in June of 2024. Which is bizarre because that movie was supposed to come out in March of 2024. They delayed it in October of 2023, telling everybody they're doing it because of the actor strike, which ended 2 weeks after they delayed it, which didn't make sense. But yet still, they went back and did principal photography 3 months after it was originally supposed to come out. I think one of the things they did, there was that scene in there where they have Rachel Zegler and Jonathan Princess almost kiss. And they kind of like, the dwarves are still here. So that, in Disney's mind, was setting up the allowance for basically giving him permission to kiss her. Because they had to show a scene where they almost kissed before, and then we get this awkward middle school first time kiss where he kisses her off the bottom lip on the chin.
Like it was barely a peck, and it's like I know I don't have your consent, so I'm only just gonna brush my lips on him. Don't cancel me for it, please. Don't cancel me, but it's to save your life, so it's okay. I'm just gonna come in. It felt like all those vibes, and when she wakes up, I was like, now I'm gonna kiss you because I'm the woman and I have the right to decide those things. It was sad. It was
sterile. It was so cold and it was lifeless. Like everything in this movie was just lifeless.
Mm-hmm.
Also, his costume was awful. I guess costume was basically a t-shirt, hoodie, and jeans.
Yes.
But, like a fantasy version of them.
He was a rip of Flynn Rider from Tangled. Everybody caught this, and I was surprised. Stephanie, my nerdy home from Geeks and Gamers, was the first one that I saw that I noticed that posted it. She might not have been the first, but when she said that, I'm like, oh my God, you're right. And then I saw like a dozen other people post about this. He looks exactly like the Flynn Rider character that they built for Tangled, which they're also supposed to be doing a live action version of.
Really?
And they pulled it. Go look at a picture of Flynn Rider from Tangled and put it next to Jonathan. It is a carbon copy. That's what they went for. But the problem is they didn't give the Jonathan character any of the charm, nothing. Just a useless space filler on a camera frame.
Yeah, and on top of that, the chemistry between them was awful. Like the only thing that felt authentic was how much they were annoyed by each other and didn't like each other. And so that, annoying princess problems, horrible song, that actually felt kind of, real. And to the point where I could not buy them falling in love. They're not in love at all. This is just absolute crap. Contrast this again to the animation. After Snow White eats the apple, it pauses and gives a narration with text saying that she was dead, but the dwarves were so heartbroken they couldn't bring themselves to bury her, so they made a coffin for her out of glass and gold, where she can rest there. And then it said the prince had been searching for like months to find Snow White. He had actually gone out and just been searching high and low to find his love. And so he actually, that's like a movie in and of itself that I'd be interested in, to see the trials that the prince went through to find Snow Love. And he didn't know necessarily what happened to her. And when he came, he saw that his beloved was dead. And he gives her a kiss almost in mourning. He didn't know that was going to save her life. And then, of course, she comes back alive from that. And already there's so much more heart in the original. But let's go back even further than that. Like, Zegler called this guy a stalker. And it's like, have you even watched the film? And so there's two interpretations of the film. There's the more common interpretation, but it turns out there's actually a deeper interpretation of the original in terms of the relationship between the prince and Snow White. And I've even heard people say that there was an interview with Disney. Haven't confirmed this, so it might just be hearsay, right? And so this is the hearsay thing, that Disney had an interview where he said that there was actually a backstory between her and the prince, that they're childhood friends and that their love had already grown considerably before that time, but they didn't have the budget to depict that. And there are hints in the animation that actually kind of indicate this, where she says, I'm waiting for the one I love who find me. But she specifically says that she's waiting for a prince, not just but that's interesting. So she kind of knew then that her true love was a prince. And that is confirmed, like if she already had a relationship and he is a prince, and she's waiting for him specifically, not just a random prince that she just wants a prince to come and save her. Because if it was more generic, that could be anyone, she'd just say, I'm waiting for my true love.
As long as he's a prince with 6 figures, 6 foot tall.
She gets startled when the prince arrives, and people often interpret that she doesn't know who she is. But another interpretation of that scene is that she knows who she is, and she's embarrassed to be seen by him because she's wearing rags. And when she runs inside, she looks down at her dress and her state. She actually looks at how she looks, and then the prince comes to her and starts to sing, and that can be seen that he is accepting her no matter what she is. She doesn't need to be a princess. Yeah. She can be in rags and he will love her no matter what. And that wins her over. And she fixes her hair, and she comes out to the balcony and they have that moment. And that's a completely valid reading of that scene. Like those beats actually indicate quite strongly that no, it seems like they knew each other beforehand and were already in love. And so there's a relationship there, right? And Zegler wanted to brush that, and not just her. Heaps of people was like, he's a stalker. And
wasn't she 7 in the original?
I've heard that. But I want to confirm it.
This part isn't in the original, right?
No, because that could
not
be
the original movie, the original story.
That's when she became more beautiful than the queen, and the queen became jealous of her. And I'm not sure if the story continued when she was older or not. I need to confirm that.
Because in the cartoon, in the original Disney cartoon, she's 14.
She's 14. Yeah.
Oh, was she that young in the original cartoon? I thought she was 16. Okay.
Ariel was 16 in The Little Mermaid.
Okay.
But I haven't confirmed it. I've just heard multiple people say that she's 14, which for the time period, that's not crazy out of the ordinary.
It actually makes more sense. Because
it's not
she's very naive.
The beginning of a courtship. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was assuming that she was like, it makes more sense because she was very naive and not very worldly in the original animation, and which was made the live action film very jarring because they try to call back to the original animation while also trying to make her like a modern day girl boss princess. So we kind of shifted between her being naive enough to bite the apple from the creepy old witch, but also be girl bossy enough to take on all these soldiers earlier on. Like, you want Snow White? Come get me. But he's also naive enough to go inside houses and eat random apples and stuff.
But the motivation
plot had to happen. The plot had to happen. Come on.
The motivation for her eating the apple in the animation, the motivation for eating the apple in the animation makes perfect sense, and it's set up brilliantly, actually. Whereas this one is just like, here, have a random apple and take a bite, you idiot. Where the animation, right? She is making pies for the dwarves out of an act of affection, and she puts Grumpy's name on it because she wants to win Grumpy over in particular, because this is the one who's been most skeptical of her. The witch arrives and says, what you do? You're making pies. You know what makes the best pies? Apple pies. And I just happen to have these apples right here. And then to convince her that the apples are worth making pies, she says, take a bite. It's going to be the tastiest thing you've ever had, and you want to make pies out of it. And that's a completely logical setup.
They took that out of the movie?
Yeah. She's not making pies anymore.
That's actually, I didn't even think about that. I didn't think about that at all. You make a great point, is that the fact that one of the biggest flaws of the story, I didn't think about that at all, was that this story only works because Snow White is so young. She is so naive. And that by changing her into this all-knowing, all-powerful Mary Sue, Ray Palpatine girl boss, none of this shit works anymore. And let me tell you what, like I said earlier, as the father of 2 teenage girls, I can tell you that scene where the prince is singing to her from the window and she's ashamed of her appearance and she goes in and fixes her hair because she doesn't want to look bad for the cute boy. That is absolutely what every teenage girl would do. Trust me, as a daddy, because I'm the guy in the hallway with the fucking shotgun going, who's the guy at the window? So I'm telling you, no, that's all real. That's and look, but the point is that this is why the original cartoon for decades and decades and decades resonated with little girls. Surprise, surprise. And this new movie resonates with nobody.
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 I just sad middle-aged to old feminist activists who, wish that everything would go their way just because they're a woman. Because that's like the remake is that everything goes her way because she's entitled to it. And it's just validation. It's all about just validating Snow White.
Shad, there was a moment in the movie. Okay, remember she's like she finds the 8 thieves or whatever, and then the guards come, and then she goes, "I'm going to fight with you." Like, fight with them? How? What are you going to do? Hit with a broom? And then she goes. Then they let her run off, right? And then they go. The thieves start fighting the soldiers, and of course they're taking on the soldiers because they're plucky thieves and can defeat professional soldiers. But then Snow White is at the top of the hill, goes, "You seek Snow White? Come get me." I could have sworn, going by the past Disney movies, I thought this was setting up for like a Rambo-esque scenario where she's going to start taking them down one by one.
She just comes in, takes a sword out. I'll take you on.
Because if everything was set up that way, because they go up to the hill, right? And it's like, her dress. They think she's hiding behind the tree, but the dress is being carried away by birds. Oh, she's like the predators. He tricked them. And then the guy goes, "Spread out. We're gonna go look for her." I was like, okay, this is it. She's gonna go take them out one by one, Rambo style. It's gonna be hiding in mud, and she's gonna have like a knife out and stuff. Like I was ready for that.
I asked Alan Ng the same thing when he came on my show. I think it was Wednesday night last week, the night before I went to go see the show. Alan Ng from Film Threat. He came on. He couldn't divulge too much because they were doing the show the next day. But that was one of the actual questions I asked him. I said, from the previews and the trailers, does she go like full, because Gal Gadot was in the movie, and I said, does she go full Wonder Woman and start just wrecking dudes like in armor? He's like, no, she doesn't go that far. I'm like, kind of disappointed now because that would have been at least funny.
Exactly. At least that would have been funny. But what happened is that it's just about validating her entitlement, where everyone, comes to her side because she remembers their names. And it was like,
oh God, that was so
basically
gay.
What happens is like, hey,
what was
remember
that?
when you had remember when he had a cherry tree? Like, yeah, I do remember. Let me join the rebellion and fight the queen.
And they set up that the queen specifically picked like people that would serve her, right, and be loyal to her at the beginning of the film. But they flip on a dime just because it's Snow White, and it's this.
It's not even because she convinces
nonsense.
them. She doesn't even convince them, or
Not
anything,
even
or
argument.
doing a speech. It's just like, hey, remember when he grew cherry trees? Oh yeah, that's right, I did do that. All right, time to fight the queen.
They could have taken 5 minutes, 10 minutes somewhere during the movie to actually set that up. Like they were doing all the exposition and the flashbacks and whatever else. And or when she was young, I mean, they could have shown her helping the children of one of these guards, or helping this guard, or feeding this person before he was, or something. They did none of this. It just like it was. Oh, here you go.
What's the time frame? Like, how old is she when this movie starts, and then how long does it take?
She's probably like 18 or 20 in the movie, but it starts when she's a kid.
Yeah, she goes from like baby to what, 10 years old to then 18 to 20, something like that. Yeah.
I think the movie takes place over the course of like 3 days or something. It doesn't last very long.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's I'm trying to remember what I was going to say, because there was this thing happened towards the end, but it's escaped me now. What was it? It was something about how she was going to convert the soldiers to her side. And it's like on the tip of my brain, and now it's not coming through. All right. Going back to the whole thing that I completely get wrong, the apple scene. I just find it so interesting that in this one, she doesn't even have a reason really to eat the apple apart from stupidity. Oh, that's right. Her political acumen. That's what I was going to talk about. It's like when she was trying to get these soldiers to convert, she should have done what her plan was in the original, in the scene where she was talking with the evil queen, offer him an apple pie. That'll do it, because that's the extent of her political, insight. It's like, to fix the problems, the economic problems that's going on here, we'll just make them apple pie.
That's not even exaggeration either. It's like, okay,
I'm not.
It's like our king was fair because he gave everyone apple pies.
That was another thing. I don't remember who brought it up. I don't know. It might have been Robot Head in this video. And this was, I didn't even catch this, but he's totally right when he showed it. He's like, wait a minute. Flynn Rider, Prince Jonathan is tied with a loose rope to the gate. She pulls like one thread of the rope and the thing unties. He could have walked off. So she brings him this half a loaf of stale bread. And she had just walked out of a room where this massive feast was on the table. And of everything, it's like, let me bring him a half a baguette of stale bread. Meanwhile, there were turkeys and hams and roasts on the table. There were all kind of desserts. There was a smorgasbord of 2,000 pounds of food.
Well, maybe he was carb loading.
She brings him a breadstick. It's like the Olive Garden. It's like, here's one breadstick, and there's no refills.
Soak it in water before you eat it, so you'll make it.
Not only that, we saw the stockroom, the larder, and it's just packed with food. She could have just grabbed any number of things. That whole scene was dumb because, like, it's in the open courtyard of the castle where this guy is tied up here with a flimsy rope that he could have gotten out of easily, or anyone, right? But she just walks out in the open. I'm like, what? Surely there's going to be guards that can see you. Like, you're not trying to hide what you're doing. And then, of friggin' course, the evil queen is on a balcony watching the whole bloody thing. And I'm just like, yeah, if you're trying to make this character look like a moron, you're doing a great job.
You think you should throw a fireball or something?
No. Her magic was limited to making roses collapse in her hand. That was it. It was wither and turn to ash. That's all her magic power was limited to. That was it.
But that means, the whole song, can she do that to a person? Because that's crazy powerful. Like
necromancy power
of her power now. Because before, the queen was like, she was a bit of a dabbler in the arts and needed books and extensive things to, make a magical effect or something like that. In this one, she's a sorceress, and it's like, okay, then why doesn't she just fireball Snow White or something like that? Make her wither and die. She can literally summon constructs made out of diamonds. Right?
Cool.
It's like she's got powers now, but she decides to abandon all her powers when her soldiers turn against her. When she can, for all I know, she can shoot bloody, diamond shards and impale everyone. But she runs away and destroys the mirror, and that destroys her for reasons that we don't know.
Also, I want to point out that I found kind of jarring and took me out of the film immediately was when she started singing the song, right? The Snow White, so singing "Waiting on a Wish" song. And this is after the queen says, "Okay, go take him out there and tie him up, and then leave him to die." And then she starts singing the song, and I feel like days pass or whatever, because she's like singing, dancing around, cleaning the castle. I feel like days pass, maybe even weeks, and then she finishes the song, and she looks over, and the guards are still carrying the guy out. Like, how long is she making? How long is still carrying this guy out of the castle?
That's a great.
How big is this castle?
Yeah, it's like what the. This movie
it was like
is
a montage.
incompetent.
It was like a montage scene where it's usually like 3 days later.
Yeah,
That's
imagine like Rocky was like his friend was going to go to work, and Rocky was doing the whole montage, and then Polly comes back from work that day. It's like, what do you mean?
Like, this
Doesn't
movie
seem
is
right.
incompetent on multiple levels. Like, even in basic continuity, they can't even do it, let alone character motivations. And the biggest failing is just the setups and payoffs and the core message of the film. It's an absolute piece of crap. But
Also,
let's bring it back. Sorry, what
I
you were
want
going to
to
say?
add, why does everyone like Snow White in the movie? Shouldn't other people hate her?
Yeah.
Because like in the beginning, the thief is like, "Oh yeah, Snow White hasn't been seen like forever," and he's like, "Well, she's doing all she can. Well, how about stop wishing and dreaming and start doing something?"
She's done nothing to help.
They should at the very least be apathetic about her, because I mean, not look at her as a hero, because like, she did nothing. It was just, why were they waiting for her? Nothing was set up. That's the point. It's just, everything was just move from point A to point B to point C to point D in the script, and that was it. Just move it along. And you felt nothing for any character in this whole movie. Nothing.
100%. Like it was an absolute dumpster fire from start to finish, made by horribly incompetent people. Like, they don't know how to write a good story, let alone a classic story that has themes that will resonate with people on a level of truth. There is truth embedded in a tale, where this is just subversive crap. It's a girl boss wanting to be the leader because she's entitled to it, and everything magically warping around her to validate what she wants because of entitlement. And she's insufferable. She tries to play off being kind, but then that completely contradicts when she's being this annoying snob, which she is. It's a mess. The dwarves do nothing. They're pointless in this film now. In the original animation, they're the ones that kill the evil queen. They chase her up a mountain and she died. And there's actually like almost poetic kind of justice with the way that's played out in the animation, where the dwarves chase her away and corner her, but yet even being cornered, instead of running away, she kind of gets trapped, but there might be a way she could have gotten to safety. But instead of that, she tries to kill the dwarves out of some sense of like vindictiveness, and is killed by her own, evil in the end. And so it's a combination.
Wait a minute, Shad. Do you mean to tell me that in the original movie that they actually made you try to hate the evil queen? Because I think I missed that in the new version.
Yeah, because then we come to Gal Gadot. Because
I couldn't tell the difference between the evil queen and Dopey.
That musical number of hers was so bad.
And I can't throw Gal Gadot under the bus too bad, because I mean, look, she's still at like anybody else in her position. She's at the mercy of the writing and the directing in this, and in this case, the songwriters. Look, Gal Gadot is not, she's not Helen Mirren. Okay, I grant you that, but when you hand an actress a giant turd on a platter and say, "Here, eat it," I mean, you're going to get what you're going to get. So, but I mean, her performance was bad.
To jump on such a comment in the chat, let's say, to be fair, the evil queen fell off a mountain. The dwarves didn't really kill the evil queen. Why was the evil queen on the mountain? Because the dwarves chased her there. It was the dwarves that facilitated her destruction, and then yes, her own evil ended up doing the final act, but it was a combination of things, which is why it actually has almost a poetic sense to it. It plays out really well, where the dwarves play an instrumental role in defeating the evil queen, but it's the evil queen that also kills herself in a way that we understand, where it was her attempt to kill the dwarves that backfires and kills herself. She's literally trying to, leverage off a rock that'll go down and destroy the dwarves, because it's that final act of evil and violence that she wanted to commit that killed herself, where instead of just trying to, kill the dwarves, he could have just escaped to safety. But it's her continued attempt to try and, be evil that led to that. And so there is it plays out quite well as a result. And yeah, the dwarves are instrumental, essential in that. Now they do nothing. They do nothing. They're pointless.
They're just literally saccharine little reminders that Disney exists.
Well, maybe Peter Dinklage wouldn't let them do anything.
That's what happened. Yeah, Peter Dinklage said, "No, you can't have little people here." They did have one little guy in there, who was kind of fun, the Master of the Crossbow guy.
That was the biggest clue at how screwed up the two sets of principal photography and production for this movie were. Is that originally we're not going to have 7 dwarves. The Peter Dinklage comments and all this came out. You had this very, I would refer to it, as I said the other night, an ambiguous comment from Mr. Webb, who directed the movie, who said we had always intended the 7 dwarves to be CGI. The problem is that I don't know when always started, because I don't think it started at the outset of this film.
There's information on that on FNT. Ryan Kennel actually mentions that they had dwarves auditioning for roles before photography started.
There you go.
So they did intend to have dwarves into some level, and it has to voice them or to act as them or something like that. But the 7 dwarves were supposed to have been in, but to what extent we don't know, because clearly they feel disconnected. Their execution just you could remove them and have just the bandits, and the film would.
Well, that's what I'm saying. By the time they went to principal photography, they had already made up their mind. They had these 7 bandits in there, and they were. There were 7 of them. I don't think that was a coincidence. And then we got
7 bandits.
Yeah. We got this 1-year delay, and the first time we ever saw any type of imagery with Rachel Ziegler and the 7 dwarves was the day, because remember they put that picture out, the day they announced the 1-year delay, was that picture of Snow White sitting in the house with the 7 dwarves that we saw in the movie, the animated versions, and immediately everybody started picking apart the image, saying that this looks entirely generated, to get back to our first conversation, with AI. Because it looked like the faces of Alfred E. Newman from Mad Magazine as Dopey, which he still kind of looked like in the movie.
He still got it in, yeah.
And then people were saying, this dwarf looks like this guy and this guy. So there was this weird, where was this image before that moment? I mean, they could have put out concept art way in advance. They didn't. Supposedly, principal photography had finished in late 2022, for God's sake. I mean, early 23, late 22. They didn't put that image out until October of 23, when they announced that they were going to delay it for an entire year from its original. So no, this was very clearly 2 movies that were stitched together, and they're trying to conceal this. Because none of this made sense. None of this worked together. The bandits had no agency in the film. The dwarves had nothing in the film to do either. One or the other was originally intended to do something here, but when they had both of them together in this film, neither of them wound up doing anything.
Yeah, well, because and neither did Snow White technically, but they want to give her the win. But it's no, she does this thing that doesn't make sense. Remind the soldiers their names, and then everyone flips on a dime and the queen decides to kill herself. She achieves nothing. And I'm not convinced that would have caused these henchmen to come to her side at all, but it does, because she's just entitled to it. She's just that awesome. Amazing. She's just awesome, right?
I think that you pointed out the queen goes you know what, I'll just kill myself now, because that's kind of what she does. She goes into this mirror.
Tell me again how this was not The Last Jedi 2.0. I'm waiting. I'm really waiting. And Ray Palpatine.
It is.
Yeah.
This is one of the biggest failures Disney has done. This is up there, right? And I want to point out a tweet that Nerdrotic just shared recently where he says, here are 2 more examples of why the good old you help these movies by covering reviewing them argument is total bullcrap. Because there's been a lot, not just a lot of coverage about Snow White. There was a lot of coverage with Captain America with the 3 benches, but the coverage of Snow White has huge. This is like everyone's kind of talking about it. How is that not helping the film, people? No, this is harming the film. It's making it worse. All the people pointing out and laughing at it, how much of a dumpster fire this thing is.
Now people know how bad it is.
Yes, it's letting people know how bad it is. It's harming the film. It's doing a good job informing people about it. It's not helping it by any means. And I think like people that, even those who say, oh, you're just helping it, I think they must kind of know that, because when The Acolyte failed, did you see that tweet where it's like, well done, bigots, you won, or something like that? They blamed all the negativity on why Acolyte failed, not because it was an absolute dog crap show.
Yeah, team hate, we win again.
But it seems like sometimes they acknowledge that, people pointing out the bullcrap does have an effect and even blaming all the failure on it. And then other times they try and say, you're helping.
I like being both simultaneously a vocal minority that has no power and able to annihilate entire Disney productions. That's pretty awesome.
Look, we've been hearing that for years. I laughed about that earlier. The last couple of weeks, I was having a conversation with somebody. It's like, we're at the point now where the people on the left have got to decide which is going to be your narrative going forward. Either we are a bunch of, small, nobody, basement dwelling incels at mama's house, or we are powerful enough to take down Disney. Which is it, guys? Because I'd really love to know. I mean, we got 2 stories going on right here.
You're gonna go with both. All these incels could take down Disney.
I find it's hilarious. And one of the things that I was happy about with the review I did of Snow White, and I talked about the Cinderella 2015 because it's a great film and I love it and it's a great contrast. But at the same time, it also just destroyed any argument. People saying you're going to hate everything. You just hate Disney for the sake of it. No. If Disney does something that is of truly genuine quality and has good, uplifting, wholesome messages, Disney has made great stuff. Okay. And when they make good stuff, I will praise them. And it's like, oh, let's get a course correction here. And Cinderella 2015 is one of my favorite films. Genuinely, I actually adore that film. And if this happened to be good, yes, I would have praised it too. But it is so astoundingly bad that, my review is just roasting it to smithereens because it's fails and it's got so incompetent on so many levels. Mm-hmm. But it goes straight. It's like, no, we're not just here to hate it. Maybe we're hating it because it's actually bad. I highlighted a comment saying that because it is actually that bad. This is a terrible, terrible film. And it's almost like it's a slow oncoming kind of meteor that Disney has seen for years, and they still weren't able to do anything about it. But meteor, you can't really stop. It's almost like the iceberg on the Titanic, and they saw it like, days ahead, and they could have course corrected, but it's like they just couldn't. But they still saw it oncoming, this slow coming catastrophe, and they hit it full force.
Wasn't this their best effort at course correcting?
It seems like that.
Well, the problem, Disney of the last 4, 5, 6 years at least, this has been their MO. This is a spaghetti against the wall and then course correct after we spend $200+ million, see what test audiences think, and then we'll go back to the drawing board again. The issue is that, and I think this is key, all joking aside, Disney, frankly, does not have the talent at Disney anymore to course correct. They do not have the talent to conceptualize these kind of things to where they can be good to begin with. Disney is not hiring people like Kenneth Branagh anymore, Shad, to do movies like Cinderella. And most importantly, and this is key, they're not hiring people like Kenneth Branagh and letting him do his thing. We've seen this with Marvel. Like, remember how Marvel would brag about, oh, we got Sam Raimi in here to do Doctor Strange too. But it's still very much a Kevin Feige movie. We heard this from every director they brought in to do all these Marvel movies. They bring in names to get the name, but that they don't let them do their thing. So that's not going to happen.
Yes, they didn't even have a script ready for Multiverse of Madness when Raimi came on board. Like, and the quality of a story is going to be fundamental thing. The first thing where that begins is the script, the actual story that you're telling. So you need good writers to begin with. But to your point, Valiant, right, is that even if they had the talent, they do not want to do the things that would be necessary to make a good story because they resent the fundamental archetypical truths that make a good story good, especially a fairy tale. So many fairy tales are based on the classic concept of the damsel in distress and true love, right? And
that's a big no-no for them now.
Yeah. They hate that. They resent that. Like, listen to what Zegler was saying about, this. This is like years ago, right? 2022.
I know that you've told me before that your version of Snow White is different, and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?
I mean, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
I was like, that's the core of the story, and they resent it. And I do not think this is Zegler just speaking for herself. I think that's her reflecting the attitude that she was surrounded by in the creation process, the people that were involved in making this. That they all,
I think they give them talking points. Like, remember, like in the when the Acolyte was starting to come out, all the actors had to push the idea that there was no good and evil in Star Wars, that it was all ambiguous, it's all about power and everything. So they always give these talking points. And the thing is, the biggest and one of the oldest talking points of the leftists have been that just a man being a man is just evil. So like just a man liking women is just, he's a pervert. Like if he likes a woman, he's a pervert. If he finds a woman admirable and
proud
tries
to be a pervert. Sorry.
I could get clipped.
if a man goes up to a woman, he's a stalker and a harasser.
Yes.
And a creep. So just stay completely 100% away from women, or else you're an evil creep, weirdo, psycho.
How insane is that? Look where we are in a society that a man even approaching a woman to try and, strike up a conversation, hit on her, and even in a gentlemanly way, is like, and if the woman doesn't want it or uninterested, you are harassing her.
Also, you're going to end up on YouTube and going to get dragged on the internet.
Well, you're only harassing if you're ugly. Come on.
That's
true. That's the meme. Yeah, it's just hey there.
But for your audience out there, on the other side of the earth here, if you don't know this, I mean, everybody's saying here, what Shad is saying is totally right. And what you have to understand is this concept at Disney. This isn't just something that we're pulling out of the ether. This is actually embedded into the corporate structure of Disney. This is their diversity.
They have tick boxes where it's like a man is not allowed to save a woman and rob her of her agency.
Yes.
They have tick box documents stating stuff like this.
They do. And there are two specific programs that have been at Disney, although they are trying to publicly detach themselves from it, even though the ideology is, I promise you, not going anywhere. Number one is the Reimagine Tomorrow program at Disney, which is the employees program where they want to hire more diverse, sexual, gender, diverse, representative, blah, 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 blah. But the one that's really nefarious, the one that has had the most impact, the one that has caused the things to happen like Ironheart, which is coming out later this year.
Oh boy, I can't wait for Ironheart.
Can you believe it, Shad? Can you believe it? That Disney created a show where a black chick steals a white guy's stuff? Because, how did they not think about this one? I really, truly don't know. But this is what's given us Ironheart. This is what's given us Halle Bailey's race-swapped Little Mermaid. This is what gave us Rachel Zegler as Snow White, who the Stories Matter group. That's the actual name of the group that's been at Disney, the Stories Matter group. This is the DEI department at Disney that has had their fingers in every production, television, and film that Disney has done for years. This is the group that says that we need to cast somebody like Rachel Ziegler, who is a person of color because of her half Latina blood, because we can get the diversity, equity, and inclusion points because Disney brags about their 100% rating with the Human Rights Campaign, right, in terms of DEI, because Rachel Ziegler is what they would refer to, just like Pedro Pascal, as quote-unquote white passing. This is why y'all out there thinking that you're all laughing at this.
No,
I am
this
not
is
making
true.
this up.
This is absolutely
Shad
true.
knows this is true. This is why we're getting this stuff. But here's the problem for Disney is that audiences, especially American audiences, we've kind of, we're not woke anymore. We've actually awakened, and we actually realize that we're getting slapped in the face with really ridiculous virtue signaling, and everybody's getting tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if they had cast like an Oriental woman who was actually Snow White, if it would have had the same reaction.
If like Snow White, part of the things, she's got pale skin,
Right?
so
Right.
pale,
And you can pick Japanese, Korean, whatever. You. Could
I was
get
going to say, if they had cast a really hot Korean chick in this with pale white skin, I'd have been like, yeah,
let's go. And it would have done great in China.
But
that's right.
That was the first bit of controversy, was the casting. When Ziegler was cast, people were like, Disney's doing it again. This is one of the core aspects of the visual characteristics of this character. Disney is subverting for political woke activist reasons. And that, I think, put Ziegler on the defensive already, where she was starting to be antagonistic, I know she made comments, but like they were years ago now, and I can't remember exactly, but she came off as defensive and antagonistic, and that's not a good start. And then you have her comments about, the original tale's really dated. It was made in 1930 something, and evidently so, right? And that's her showing disdain for the traditional aspects of that story. And then she continues the prince literally.
I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because we cast a guy in the movie, Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yeah. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
That one is wild to me. It's here's your co-host, and she's just like, yeah, he could get completely cut from the film. Sucks for you.
Everybody at that moment should have gone, my God, what a bitch.
We're gonna remake Twilight. It's like a 2025 version of Twilight. So, we're gonna cut out all the vampires and werewolves. That's gonna be out of the film. No love story. There's not gonna be any Bella. Is this gonna be about Edward?
And Ziegler, your movie is just absolutely bombing, and you've probably ruined your career. That's Hollywood, baby.
But she said they were all still gonna line up to see her.
She said she hoped that they would, even with her cracks and flaws. She hopes that people would still line up to see her. It's like, Ziegler, you could have a redemption arc. I'm not saying it's not beyond, but you need to show actual, not only true sincerity, where all her we're gonna convert them with kindness and comments like that. Did you see that that discussion she had with Garfield?
Can you even do kindness?
It came off as so fake, especially that it came off right after her saying some of the nastiest stuff, right? And by the way, her saying that we'll convert them with kindness and stuff like that. She said that, I think, before, I might be wrong, but I think that was before canonically the election, where she says to Trump and all his supporters, I hope you never know peace. And so it's like, so you attempting to be kind and we're going to be so kind to all these people converted with kindness was full of friggin' crap. You're absolutely full of it.
One of those comments was written by Disney attorneys and the other wasn't. So, yeah.
It's a discussion she had with Andrew Garfield, and I think this was after another thing that she pissed people off with, and then she was trying to put on this veneer of I'm just so loving, and we're gonna be, and also her interview with Halle Bailey, who portrayed Ariel in The Little Mermaid. She's so
gosh, that was so long ago. I remember that.
But in those interviews, she is so artificially fake in it, where all this niceness is just complete acting. and it doesn't and then of course it happened before her comments where she wishes for half the people in the United States to never know friggin' peace. It's like, so if you want redemption, Rachel, you need to show a pattern of behavior and consistency of compassion, understanding. Humility is a big one for you, because holy crap, she is one of the most stuck-up people. Like, you can see that comes off, right?
I guess there's too many Hollywood actors out there that it's very clear that everyone has just laughed politely at their jokes, and no, they never thought anything different. Like this, oh, I must be hilarious. I must be a genius. But also, if Disney is going to go the way that Disney has usually gone, it's going to be tougher for her to get any sort of redemption, because now they're going to probably push her as the definitive Snow White. I think there might be everywhere. Like, it's like, oh, Snow White. Well, it's going to be her face staring back at you.
See, I don't know, because it's failing so much. I think Disney's going to want to just pretend it doesn't exist. They're going to
that is one. To me, it's 50-50, because it could be they're trying to forget it, or on the other hand, they're going to try to push it so hard they're going to force you to like it.
We've already got precedent. You just brought it up. Halle Bailey, okay, as Little Mermaid, as Ariel. And I mean, look, Halle Bailey miscast as Ariel, right? She visually, and this was my big deal, because again, I look at things from a pure money standpoint. I do money for a living. And when you cast somebody like Halle Bailey as Ariel, you've already screwed up, because you're going after a children's audience, and children visually identify with what they know. And when you're trying to sell the most popular Disney princess of the last 30 years, a multi-billion-dollar selling franchise and merchandising character like Ariel, don't stick a black girl in there. No offense, because it doesn't look like Ariel. You just screwed the pooch right there off the bat. Now, that being said, Halle Bailey, to her credit, is a really sweet and charming girl. She has nice. She's bubbly personality. Personality-wise, she's great for Ariel, but visually she doesn't fit. But here's the thing. Halle Bailey didn't come out and take a hot steaming dump on the original movie before the movie came out. Rachel Ziegler went right to that.
Yes, and then laughed at her co-host might get cut from the film entirely and just kind of says, suck it, right? Like, a big difference. Now, someone in chat says, regarding Rachel, is like, she's a child cutter. So it's like, she's not a child. She's an adult, okay? And her age now, what, she's 22 or something like
23.
that? 23, right? By that age, I had served a 2-year mission for my church. I was a missionary at church. I'd become a qualified pastor, also a marriage celebrant. I'd worked in a timber construction yard for 2 years, for a year straight. And I that's not an excuse for age, okay? Especially, like, she should be far more mature for her age. And I hope that these are the things that the backlash is going to cause her to wake up. But I honestly don't think so. People usually, when they're under a lot of criticisms like that, they just kind of retreat into a shell, and they need to be protected because they can't hack the truth.
Yeah, both of my oldest were married by that age.
Yeah, like, you know. And I do think that she has, like, you know, what is it? Some Arrested Development thing where I think she's been coddled and just validated her whole life and everything like that. But this is not an excuse. It's not an excuse for her behavior by any means. She does need to grow up and fast. And if she is smart, she would listen and realize that, okay, maybe I need to, you know, reflect a bit on this. But I think her career is toast, especially with the failure of this film. She's not been in a successful film at all. And what an opportunity she has just, like, set on fire and squandered. Like people dream of the opportunities that were given to her on a platter. She was plucked out of obscurity by Spielberg, right? And cast in West Side Story. What a crazy opportunity. All you had to be was grateful and humble for all these incredible things. But instead, she's entitled as, like, of course, like, her attitude, it comes off like, well, of course I was giving, because I'm just wonderful. Awesome. I'm just beautiful and wonderful. I'm like a work of art. She's compared herself to the Winged Victory in the.
Man, that's it.
I heard that.
It's you know, I wouldn't have maybe if I was Jesus, I wouldn't quite have 12 apostles, but I'm pretty close.
And it's a continued pattern of behavior. There's another clip I want to share, and these are clips are coming from Nerdrotic's recent review video because he made a great compilation at the beginning of his video that I'm grabbing them from. But Letev, you were about to say something?
I was to say that so the movie opens right, and pretty much the first image after the traditional storybook opening made me laugh. I just in the theater, just to laugh because what a iconic image that kind of summarizes the perspective and viewpoints of modern day Hollywood and the leftist entirely, which is they're all caught in a snowstorm. And inside the carriage is golden light. The king and queen are looking happy at their new daughter. It's clearly bepeaceful inside. However, the servants outside are caught in the snow, covered in like they're freezing to death, trying to get their wagon or their carriage out of from being stuck in the snow. Like, wow, that's pretty on point. Are these if they put sombreros on the workers outside, it'd be like dead on leftist mentality.
To this comment in chat, like
toilets.
if she'd been grateful and humble, the movie would still be inhuman communist portrayal of Walt's vision with her face all over it. That is true, but I do think the film would not have done as poorly. Like those opening comments about her saying how dated is everything like that alienated so many people who love the original, where the lead actress is just taking a steaming dump on it. And then you have other peripheral comments where she comes off really arrogant, whereas like, yeah, my co-host might be written out of the entire film, that's Hollywood, babe. It's like, that's an awful thing if that happened. Wouldn't she say like, he said, and she always said, oh, great dude. It's like, why isn't she actually being sincere? It's like, we had such a great time. He's going to be a great person in the film. We hope to see that, there's so many nicer things she could have said, but she came off like such an arrogant, mean girl, right? And I actually think she is like a stereotypical mean girl. And that has harmed the film. And that's been around because not only that, then there's been consistent comments from her, like just turning people against her, enraging people. Like this one for me is wild. This happened November last year. And listen to this one.
Our rights are on the line, folks. Our reproductive rights. Come on. Go vote blue. And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business.
Oh! How's that turning out for you, Rachel? Because people listened, evidently. She literally did the thing is like, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my stuff.
She did the thing. She said the thing.
And it's just,
my gosh.
Oh, wow. And like, that's just one amongst many comments of her just turning people against you. It's like, oh my gosh. And that one is, to me, is just like apocalyptic. It's a nuclear comment where it's like, all right, people will listen to you when you say that, She's literally like, you don't need my business. Sorry, I don't want your business if you don't vote the way I want you to. Ooh. And at this point,
okay. It's only a majority of the country.
Yeah, it's only the majority of the country, right? So I do genuinely think like the movie would still be bad, but it would not have been doing as poorly if she just not only shut her mouth, if she was humble and grateful about it. Because we talk like a good example is the Little Mermaid. We talked about Hailey, or whatever her name is. She seems like a nice person. The movie still did bad, but like not as bad as it could have done it. Because did you see the clip that we just shared?
I did. I had not seen that one before. I saw it. I was like, oh Lord, I had no idea she did the thing.
She did the thing.
Yeah. She ate that one. I mean, that was first made famous by what's her name, the redheaded banshee feminist from the Lucasfilm Story Group. If you don't like my politics, don't buy my book. And guess what? The entire High Republic series failed miserably. Hollywood doesn't learn. They keep prodding down this road of trying to find a modern audience, quote unquote, that doesn't exist anywhere, because they keep trying to make these movies that were as popular as they were because they had these timeless values. They had timeless music, timeless themes. And now they're trying to peg everything to 2025 TikTok, Snapchat politics. Yeah, it just doesn't work. The audience isn't out there for it because what they don't seem to understand, like I said earlier, as a dad of 2 teenage daughters, they don't want that. They still want the cute boy. Yeah, they want the true love. They want the cute boy. That's what they want to go see.
Same with my daughter. My daughter loves all the traditional stuff. And yes, she loves Twilight because it's a guy who's going to sacrifice everything and protect her. And I'm not saying Twilight's necessarily good, but
that's
I
what I'm saying.
why.
Even though it sucks, they still love it because
I like Twilight for those reasons, because it actually has some very strong traditional elements to it.
That's it.
Of course, the lead character is 200 years old and the girl's a teenager in high school.
Well, but to be fair, I mean, guys have the same thing, right? There's many action movies that are terrible that I like because of the action.
yeah, exactly. If it just gives the audience what they want, the audience will love it. And Twilight is actually one of the greatest examples of that. I have a real world example where a girl said this to me in real life.
To bring up Twilight, man.
No. This is related. This is related to. I brought it up, but this is related to Snow White as well. So, like, I was in a group, and so in my church we have an auxiliary group called Young Single Adults, so the young single adults can get together. It's a great opportunity, cause people to interact and find the person you're interested in. And so the young single adults, we were watching the remade Les Mis, the live action Les Mis, and there's a guy who sees an attractive girl and has given her the eye and starts to follow her. And one of the girls comments on, that she he's good looking. And something like, and I was like, he is technically stalking her. And this is actually like, it comes off as proper stalking, not just like, the prince coming over the castle wall to sing to Snow White because they likely have a pre-existing relationship. This does look like stalking, where the guy's just like, he's staring at her and is following her, and she's looking back kind of nervously. And I mentioned that, and she literally said back to me, it's not stalking if it's hot.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of how it goes. There's another thing about that too, where a guy's morality is kind of like unnecessary. It's cool if he's a moral guy, but they don't really need that.
If it's hot, it's shocking how much women are willing to.
Well, remember we saw that video where like they're going over all these books, like, oh yeah, he's like drowning her as he does back shots on her back. Well, it's because he's hot, and that's kind of why that's allowable. All right, that's fine.
It's depressing and shocking. But there's part of it, and so like. The stalking thing, right, doesn't even apply to Snow White. But also with the Twilight thing, like Edward's good looking. And girls, like if it's a good looking guy that's willing to be obsessed over her. And the thing is, though, Edward actually is willing to die for her and do anything to protect her. That's actually is an archetypical story that girls love. They love, the concept of a man who's willing to die for them because they love them that deeply and will go to hell and high water. The prince searches for months to Snow White to save her. And the thing is, though, this is the thing. Guys also like this aspect of the stories. Guys love being the noble hero who saves the damsel in distress. Okay. I actually think the Sleeping Beauty animation is a boy's movie more than a girl's movie.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, you got Prince, what's the name? Philip goes slays a dragon.
He slays a freaking dragon with a magical sword, man. It's
also, Maleficent is cool. Like Maleficent is a cool villain.
Yes,
she's awesome.
And he gets the beautiful damsel, fairest in the land, and saves her life, saves the kingdom. Like,
But
it's actually...
there's the thing, right? That's what feminists I've zoned in on, because the archetypical story is the knight slays the dragon to save the princess. That's like the archetypical story, has everything in there. The guy who trains up to become a knight, works hard, hones his skills, kills the giant dragon, which could be pretty much anything, and then saves the princess. Now the feminists have come in and says, oh, well, this means that, he's entitled. The prince believes, or the knight believes himself entitled to her love. When the reality of the situation is, no, he's not entitled. She just loves him because this guy is a knight who slayed a freaking dragon. Yes, it's pretty awesome.
it's metal. I love that story. And by the way, like, people like the Maleficent remake. They say I need to rewatch it to see it's actually good with a critical eye. But even
the live action one,
I just hate it for how dirty they did Prince Philip. They robbed, like, Sleeping Beauty, awful. The story of what it was meant to be, to make, sympathetic villain, where Maleficent, the actual animation, she is like psycho evil.
Yeah,
like,
she's awesome. Like, I love the,
like,
that's why she was like the leader of, that's why she was the leader of the Heartless in the Kingdom Hearts.
Chat knows, like, all the powers of hell.
That was my favorite part, like, all the powers of hell, and she became a dragon. It was awesome.
It's great. And so I hate Maleficent as a result, because they robbed such a archetypical great fairy tale. Like it's funny. Snow White and Sleeping Beauty are the big, fairy tale archetypes. I think Snow White is probably the best female archetype in terms of their feminine qualities, and it's that the fact that she is just so gentle and kind that she earns the protection. But I think Sleeping Beauty is a superior fairy tale, because it actually like hits the core kind of like reasons that fairy tales exist. As the cautionary tale, like, that's embedded in there, with Sleeping Beauty just touching the spinning wheel prickers. That's like, kids, don't jam things into power sockets, things like that. Don't touch things that you aren't aware that could be dangerous, stuff like that. Like, there is embedded truth in that to begin with, but then it also has the classic damsel in distress story that will resonate with both girls and boys. They love that, but it also has the message of true love, which is the highest ideal that all people want to try and achieve. Like in life, one of the most important things you're ever going to have is your relationship with your future spouse. That's going to form the rest of your life. And the hope and dream is that you're going to find the right one, and you will find
the same sex as you.
Yeah, right. And then live happily ever after. It's an aspirational tale that speaks of this hope that I think most people have somewhere in their hearts, and they resonate with it. And yes, it's idealistic, not necessarily, I was going to say realistic, but the thing is, though, I have a video defending love at first sight, because it does happen, not for everyone, and I know it's idealized, but it does happen. It can be very real. Okay, I have a personal experience with that, honestly. And it's because these are fairy tales. They are depicting the ideal to give people hope, right? And so Sleeping Beauty has all of those in it, and it's probably my favorite fairy tale as a result. And I think it's friggin' brilliant. I actually love fairy tales for their just traditional truth, and usually wholesome truth they have in it. The older fairy tales get even darker, with cautionary kind of tales and aspects to it. Even more than Disney, but Disney used to understand that and just exemplify it and do a really good job. And now they are not even a shell. They're a zombie of their original form. They're being wholly corrupted.
Once upon a time, that show, the first couple of seasons of that one was pretty good rendition of all these characters, because it's kind of them kind of like all living, like existing at the same time. And Snow White, like she had battle powers, but just because she got exiled and became a thief and stuff.
Yeah. But she also wasn't prettier than the queen.
No, not really. Also, they gave Regina, they gave the evil queen like a much more in-depth character arc and stuff like that. It was great. She even ended up with Robin Hood, I think, as a love interest and stuff. It's crazy. That show gets crazy.
I've seen some of it, and I wasn't really watching it too critically, but a lot of people actually really do like that. And so It is really interesting, and I want to reiterate a point that we kind of talked about before, is that even if Disney had talent now to make something good, they will not, because they resent those truths that good storytelling is founded on, especially fairy tales. They will never, unless they change their ways, they don't want to show a damsel in distress. No, now it's all about a girl can save herself. This is why Snow White is a girl boss in the film, where she saves herself, and they don't know how to pull it off in any convincing way, and so everyone just bows to her, and reality warps to fulfill her whims because she's entitled.
It's okay, because in about a year we'll be able to make our own Snow White movie for about $1,000.
I mean, AI's getting that way, man.
It's getting there.
I speaking of like different renditions of Snow White, I actually did like the Neil Gaiman take on it, where like she's a vampire and then Queen is a good guy, actually, and it's like Snow White is a vampire, hair as dark as coal, red lips as red as blood, and skin as white as snow. It's just a vampire, and she enchants the entire kingdom and turns them against the queen, and they burn her alive. And so the story is written by the victors, so that's why Snow White's the good guy and the queen is evil, and that's kind of how.
I mean, I might have liked that at some earlier time, but I'm so tired of the villain is the good guy trope now. It's been done so
They're
much.
misunderstood people.
I call it the Game of Throning these different things. Did you notice it was like after Game of Thrones, and it's like people I love it in Game of Thrones when they turn Jaime, because the first book it's like Jaime is like freaking evil and everybody hates him, and then it's like later in the story you start seeing his perspective, and it's like, yeah, I did all these bad things, but I did them for this out of love, and I did all this stuff. And then people just start loving Jaime, and it's like, then they start doing that. They did it with Maleficent. They did it with Dracula. They started doing like all these villains.
I think it goes back earlier. The one that kicked it off. The one that kicked it off was Wicked. Wicked seems to be where they started to do. Oh, the villain's actually just misunderstood.
When did Wicked come out?
Oh, the stage play's been around for a
long time. Time. Actually, the trope is way older. It's a Harry Potter. That's kind of where it's called. Now, the trope specifically is called Draco in Leather Pants, where they have Draco and they kind of rewrite the villain, so he's like, oh, he's a misunderstood bad boy, and he wears leather pants now.
Now, don't get me wrong. I actually love a redeemed villain that goes through an authentic redemption arc and becomes a good guy. One of the things I loved about Dragon Ball Z, Piccolo and Vegeta having their own redemption arcs, and you see their slow process of realizing the error of their ways. And Vegeta is a particularly funny one, how he eventually comes around, because it was never from a place of sincerity to begin with. It was like, we both hate Frieza, so we're going to work together. Even though I still hate you and I want to kill you, I'll work with you just temporarily. And then he gets this bitter rivalry with Goku, and then he just wants to be tougher than Goku to the point where he wants to show that he can beat the bad guys better than Goku can. And then it gets to the point where he starts to see something noble in that pursuit. And it's just fun. It's just,
and then he evolves into the best character ever, which is Vegeta in the Rain. Like the best character ever is Vegeta in the Rain.
So I like redeemed villains if it's the intent. What I get sick with is classic tales being subverted, where the villains are just misunderstood now and stuff like that. But even in news stories, it seems to be a fairly common thing, like where they're afraid of having irredeemable, bad, evil characters now, because that's just fundamental, like so much so that having an inherently evil race is offensive to them because they think it's racist. It's bonkers.
Well, it's like as old as dirt. We need those like irredeemable evil bad guys so we can have an easier time knowing who's the good guy. And that's kind of why the Puss in Boots' Last Wish did so well. I mean, part of it because we had like irredeemable, like unapologetic villain. With what's his name?
They can work great when you have a really good villain.
Everyone loves the Emperor from Star Wars,
and
like,
sometimes
he doesn't care.
Like having them redeemed, that can be good, but also having them irredeemable, like the original Maleficent, right, can work brilliantly. Like Sauron, right? Like,
since you're on the topic of Maleficent, I would say that the Maleficent movie would have worked better had she remained the same irredeemable villain. We just get her perspective, and we get to see her fall into being completely evil.
Yeah, because that can sometimes work as well. But Hollywood is like become so deluded that in Rings of Power, they literally did that with Sauron, the embodiment of evil, the devil of the world is just misunderstood. And it's because Galadriel convinced him to embrace his own evil. It's just like, oh my
it's like
God.
he was like the equivalent of a guy who just wants to grill. Like, I just want a blacksmith.
Yes. And they even do with. I was like, I'm getting tired of it now.
Like, I just want to be a blacksmith. Why are you going to be so mean to me?
And so we have had like over 2 years of just this dumpster fire of Rachel Zegler just destroying, people interested in this film, alienating core fans, alienating, people who are conservative or vote for Trump, alienating people that just hate insufferable narcissists and stuff. And so you have all that, but then you have everything else on top of it. You have the fact that it looked like this wasn't going to be a faithful adaptation where the prince isn't going to save the princess and that. So yeah, that was going to tick off people more. Then you have the controversy with the dwarves and Peter Dinklage's comments about that, the delay and the reshoots. This has been like a constant disaster.
I'm actually surprised they released it.
I mean, I kind of am too. It's this odd
choice.
Yeah.
You can
so much money into it, they have to get something back.
Well, that's a big part of it, I think. Look, this is Snow White. This is the film that made Disney.
Not an understatement. That is important thing. Like, this is so. Yeah. I'm sorry, what were you saying, fellas?
I was going to say they could not walk away from this. There was no way they could walk away from this. This had to happen. And for all the reasons we talked about earlier, Disney's deep dive into DEI, to social politics, towards advancing social politics, this is key, above and beyond merit, above and beyond quality storytelling. Disney really, honestly, and we covered their annual shareholder meeting last week. Disney still to this day will raise the middle finger and insult, even though they don't realize they're being insulted, the shareholders of the company by saying that, our paramount mission is to be great storytellers and to be the best storytellers and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, you haven't told a good story, and I don't remember the last fucking time. Pardon my French.
10 years at this point now.
It's bad. It's just, but Disney likes to use that mantra because, and this is where they get away with it, and this is what a lot of people don't get. And I hate to say this, my fellow financial professionals out there on Wall Street, they don't understand this. Disney gets to use the constant marketing mantra of the biggest opening weekend for Captain Falcon DEI, the biggest opening weekend in March for Snow White, the biggest opening weekend for Little Mermaid, the biggest opening. Disney uses this guise of the fact that they have the biggest box office share each and every year as this panacea to solve every problem they have. And nobody's actually asking the real questions during these shareholder meetings. Nobody's asking the real questions during the earnings calls of, okay, that's great, but you put out 7 movies a year that cost $200 to $300 million a piece, and the majority of them lose a buttload of money. So you can brag about all the marketing side of things that you want. You can brag that you have the biggest box office share, but the problem is that you are spending way more than any other studio to achieve this phantom title that means literally nothing when you compare it to what you're spending. The reason that Universal or Paramount or Sony Pictures or Warner Brothers, they're not in nearly as dire straits to the order of magnitude that Disney is because, yeah, all right, they're much smaller companies. They don't have $100+ billion theme park enterprise. They don't have ESPN. They don't have still $10 billion a year in revenue from linear cable stuff. But they also don't spend $200 million a movie. You look at the average picture that comes out from a Paramount or a Universal, it might be $20 million, especially Paramount. They do a lot of horror flicks. Paramount, on average, will turn out much better profits on movies than Disney will, even though they don't have nearly the box office, but it's because they also don't spend nearly as much to make the movies. and they don't spend $100 million per movie at a minimum to market them in the theaters because of the budget. It's a different dynamic altogether.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It's going to be really fun next weekend when A Working Man beats the Disney movie.
Oh, won't that be
I
interesting?
can't wait to see that. I really want to go see Working Man.
But the box office already is apocalyptic for Snow White. It is bombing real bad. And at this point, it's like, Disney, you get what you deserve. Like, we mentioned all the controversies, and I even forgot one. Rachel Zegler's comment about Free Palestine. Oh, that's going to alienate like a massive group of people on top of that. It's just...
And those guys have money.
I mean, my gosh, it was just disaster after disaster.
Okay, on that note, Shad, I want to ask, so hold on. First of all, the Queen's original thing, right? Her original characterization was being vain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why did they change her to being greedy?
I don't know. I was watching you. I was watching you on Morning Nonsense, so I know where you're going with this one. It's like,
So they're pro-Palestine, anti-Israel, and they have the Queen now become greedy rather than vain. In fact, her entire villain song is about being greedy.
Who played the Queen?
What? Where is she from again? What? Interesting. You know what? This actually bolsters my theory that Walt Disney is haunting them because, like, oh, Mr. Disney, please stop haunting us. We'll make Gal Gadot the evil queen, and we'll make her greedy because now her vanity is not just about beauty. Her vanity is tied to her greed because her it's not about being beauty. It's about being as eternal and beautiful as a diamond.
Mm-hmm.
And the main emphasis of what she does to the people is she steals all their gold and gems and stuff.
Which is like, it's such an odd change and it's unnecessary. It was completely unneeded.
It was curious change. Why did they do that? Why did they change the Queen from being vain to being greedy? I don't know. It's just kind of something that was very noticeable because they really emphasized how greedy she was in the movie.
Yeah, make sure.
I'm going to go with the easy assumption that they were just stupid. I mean, this is the same writing team, that turned fairness in this movie from being the most beautiful, the most lovely, to the most fair.
Equitable.
Yeah, equitable. This Marxist communist trope. The person who was the most loving of the. Here's the thing. How was the evil queen in that description of fairness ever the most fair? That's what made no sense. Like the magic, like she was pure evil. She hated the people. She had nothing but contempt for the people, but yet the magic mirror in this definition of fairness still said she was the most fair until suddenly Snow White was. Like, how was she not dead in the first 5 seconds of the movie in that case? I mean, it made no sense. They changed the definition of this is not about beauty anymore, but now it's about political ideology.
And also, like in the original animation, it seemed like the Queen was somewhat limited in her powers. Like she couldn't just order Snow White's execution. She has to get the huntsman to do it in secret. He's going to be a hitman. And then when he fails, she's just like, I can't order anyone to kill her because maybe that would turn the kingdom against her, and she has to maintain her power in some way, so she has to do it herself, and that justifies it. Where in this film she's already sending her army to try and destroy her, and so there's no reason for the Queen to go out and do it herself anymore. Like, all the times they expand on that original animation, they create more contradictions and plot holes because they don't flesh it out, and they could have fleshed it out. Like, I think it would have been really interesting to explain why Snow White can command animals and have that more prominent part in the remake, because the animals are just there now. Where in the original, the animals are they're a primary part of the tale, and they're the ones that alert the dwarves that she's in trouble. And so it's really important. And I think that could have been a really interesting aspect of the world building if you wanted to expand it, because they do expand stuff, but they ruin it because they're bad storytellers. They don't know how to world build. Where I think it could have been interesting where Snow White actually ends up having a magical connection with animals through her goodness. Like, animals, they will naturally gravitate towards the kindest, most caring person. Like, they usually, can sense an alpha. They can sense, a pure heart, and then they naturally and just stuff like that. Like, there's interesting things you could do with the concept to to expand it and make it deeper and more real, like they did with Cinderella 2015. But because they're full with incompetent activists, it's utterly, useless. And every time they expand it, it's just contradiction and nonsense as a result.
What a difference a decade makes, huh?
Really, it's just 10 years, and look where we are now.
Crazy decade.
And the response has been wild, because I shared that tweet where it's like, everyone talking about it. It's not helping Snow White, but they're like, it is big topics. Everyone is reviewing this thing. My review of Snow White is the most successful video I've published on Night's Watch to this day. Like, it's done really, really well. Yeah, because people are just, they want to know about it, and they're also happy to see it burn because it doesn't earn their goodwill. In actual fact, it's earned the opposite. It has their ill will, where they want to see it fail now because of how insufferable the actress has been, how subversive the thing is, how awful Disney has become. Like, which is sad. Disney has made great things in the past. I'm at a moment where I'm happy to see Disney fail, and that's a pity. That's a shame. And if they don't change their ways, I want them to fail.
Look,
but I hope that they
time
would.
for Disney to end, Shad.
They need to hit rock bottom. Otherwise, nothing gets fixed.
Kill it if you have to.
Kill it if you have to.
What's amazing, they're one of the main ones. Disney is one of the main ones that are staying the course with the DEI and the diversity bull. And they've like tried to push and like, with Inside Out #2, let's make her not, any confusion that she, straight or anything like that. That's some people, the management, picking up on it. But I bet their hiring practice is the same. They're still filled with the activists. Bob Iger is still there. And I think his replacement are just going to be someone just the same. Disney is not course correcting. Doesn't look like it at all. And even if they do.
I think our version of the Kylo Ren thing would be let modernity die. Kill it if you have to. Because the past stuff is great. I like the past stuff they've done.
Yeah, so. I rewatched the animation and loved it. It still holds up. And I find it so baffling that the sequel is like, yes, it's so dated, evidently so. It's like, it's still a great animation. And what's shocking, it's nearly 100 years old, and the animation looks as good as the day it was made. It still holds up to, modern day 2D animation as well.
Isn't that even more humiliating that her super cool, up-to-date, hip with the kids Instagram movie is going to be just outshined by a 100-year-old dated movie?
Yes, it's
not dated, it's classic.
It is though. It genuinely is. It's a timeless classic for a reason, and it does age. Honestly, has made it better in my sight, because you don't know what you have until they try and take it away. And this has been Disney trying to subvert the original, try and take it away, and that has just made me appreciate it more. I like the original more because I see how wholesome and pure it is now that I've seen a skin suit wearing, impersonating thing trying to say, this is Snow White, you'll like it. I'm like, holy crap.
What if Disney did to Snow White what George Lucas did to the original Star Wars movies and CGI'd Rachel Zegler into them?
All kinds of crap in there.
The whole story.
It wouldn't be Rachel Zegler, because we all know that Jennifer Lawrence was the first female action star. I mean, you have to go.
Snow White shot first.
This is true. So it has been a joy just seeing Disney get what they deserve. I don't think that they'll learn, and even if they do, it'll take like 5 years for the change to actually pass through the pipeline. But I don't think that the change is even happening. I think Disney is going to be the same for another 10 years at this point. And holy crap, what's going to happen to them? And if Disney goes bankrupt as a result, you get what you deserve. We don't need you. And that's just going to create opportunities for good storytellers who can make independent stuff, and they're going to be empowered to it by tools that'll make them enable them to make higher quality stuff for cheaper. And I'm kind of excited for that. I'm excited for the independent sphere that these tools are already being used in productions. Like, we've already seen them, what they've been doing with House of David.
I love seeing that Amazon was okay with publishing an AI film.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
That means great. We've got outlets, which means Netflix is going to be, they're not going to be like, no, we can't do that. They're going to do it. They're going to follow suit.
And it creates opportunities. Like
Yep.
there has been this like hilarious backlash online where John A. Douglas just filmed the bookstore in Target, and it's got no male books there, no books for men, and the backlash has been insane, but is absolutely right. For me, I just see that as opportunity. My next novel is just a masculine, male-focused, adventure story, which is going to fill a gap in the market. And I'm excited for it. This is now an opportunity for my next book. And so let them burn down. Let the mainstream burn themselves to the ground, traditional publishing, Disney, everything like that, because it's just going to enable individual, more independent creators that are capable of making great stories, traditional stories that we love, give them room to shine. And I'm all here for it. I'm like, do it. I think it's great. Like Disney, you get what you deserve. You get what you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
All righty, let's catch up on the super chats and start wrapping up. And so Buddy Rabbit for $2 says, so artist redraws Disney's Cinderella stream when? That's to you, Mike. That's talking about
Cinderella
stream. Maybe Snow White as well. There's
we
an
did
opportunity
Snow
there.
White.
Oh, you already did. So
I must have been 2 years ago. This is such an old topic that just reborn.
Do the Evil Queen now.
Yeah.
There's opportunity to make content on this because people, they're interested in it and they like seeing the backlash. Eve the Beef for $10 says, I heard that Lit Dev bought tickets for Snow White twice. He must have liked it, right? Also, my name is not F the Beef.
That is true. I did buy 2 tickets. I was going to go once. Not only did I buy 2 tickets, I bought 2 sets of popcorn and drink.
Lit
So I was
Dev.
going to go once, and then I missed it because I had some error occurred, some tragedy occurred, like some minor one with something came up, and then I went to go buy it again, and so that's when I went.
Lit Dev, you could have bought 100 tickets for this and it wouldn't have just moved the needle. And I find it so because there's even been comments under my video saying, why would you support this movie? You're helping it. I was like, no. The ticket I buy to watch Snow White, to review it and inform people if it's good or not. And if it's bad, right, that is going to cause like more than one ticket, like potentially several hundred people choose not to watch it as a result. Me reviewing the film is not helping it when it's bad by any means.
It's like I paid my money, so therefore I it's fair. Like I'm entitled to give my opinion now. I think like I paid the money. I've given them their due, and so now I'm a paying customer of this movie, and I can give you my full review. In all fairness,
100%. And like my video, like I said, best one on Night's Watch so far is like over 370,000 views at the moment, and those are 370,000 people that gets told the truth about this dumpster fire of a film that wouldn't have been able to be informed if I didn't pay for that single ticket. And so this is not helping Disney by any means by people reviewing it. And if I was not reviewing it, I wouldn't have watched it because, I don't want to support Disney. And there's a lot of things that I just don't watch because I don't want to support Disney. But if it's good, I actually think, okay, if it's going to change, wake them up or change their ways, I think it's good that we support good things that has good, wholesome messages, stuff like that, because that sends a message of what we want to see. When bad things fail, sends a good message. And when good things succeed, sends a good message. So support the good things, people, and don't support the bad things. We got a Graph Web for $2 says, in the name of all that's holy, cancel Disney Plus. It's funny.
What's
that
up,
ties into
Graph
exactly
Web?
what I was saying.
Yep.
Yeah, I probably would have canceled Disney Plus ages ago. But like I said, I'm reviewing this dumpster crap. And so, it's on the business.
I'm watching Daredevil.
But I get that sentiment. By the way, me paying for Disney Plus, paying a ticket, trust me, Disney would much rather me never watch or review this stuff at all. They hate that people are calling this crap out. All this negative press, like the adage of any, what press or advertising is good press, that's not true anymore. They're like, I would almost say that Snow White is probably trending in terms of how many people are talking about it, and it's not reflecting in the ticket sales by any means. Man, Acolyte everyone was talking about that, and it bombed. And they literally blamed. There were people like, "You win, bigots." They blamed all of us for its failure. So they know that this has an effect. Like Critical Drinkers review, I think it's had over 3 million views.
Oh,
right?
wow.
I think that was one of his biggest videos ever. Like I remember him talking about. I cannot believe like how fast the views on that Acolyte video went through the ceiling. I've never seen anything like it in all my years on YouTube because people just were enjoying clowning on that show so much because it was so awful. And guys like that, like with Drinker and you, people will flock to you to see when they know something out there is a complete dog turd. They want to hear some good comedy, and they want to hear some people that they respect and love ripping on it, and that's what makes it great. I mean, there were probably more views for Critical Drinkers video on the Acolyte than Disney Plus had in North America for that episode, and I'm not even kidding.
Yeah,
I'm not even
that's
kidding.
True.
Yeah.
Oh, it's hilarious. And this is kind of related as well. It's Tyler Wrigley for 99 says, "Thank you for watching this stuff so we don't have to. You're welcome, sir." And he says, "Curious, will you be doing season 3 of Wheel of Time review?" This is interesting because I think that Wheel of Time is already dead. People, I don't need to review it to tell people it's dog crap because I reviewed season 1 and 2 and it's absolute dog crap. Season 3 seems to be just as bad, and I'm totally checked out. I don't want like it's dead to me. That's like I think a good sign where even things that I could review, I don't want to because it's so bad, and I don't think I need to. That's another thing. Everyone knows it's dog crap. There's no need to, and no one is interested in it. My season 2 reviews, very few people watch it because they knew that it was crap based on season 1. Like the only temptation I have is when I see people trying to say that season 3 is good, when all the reports that people I trust is like, no, it's not. But there are actual people already reviewing it, calling it out. There's one called like The Sword and the Pen. She's reviewing it. And she's like this is absolute dog crap. So I appreciate that you want me to look. I'm on the fence a bit, but mostly I don't think there's a need. He says they are still destroying characters, yet a little better. See? It hurts. Wheel of Time is one of those that hurts for what they've done to it. Maybe. Rover Boy, member for 18 months, legend dude. Thank you so much. He says, "All girls in my household were disappointed in Snow White. My wife chastised the kiss scene when it happened. Brand damage for sure. Great to catch you live. Great to have you, man." Yeah. My mum, who usually like she has very low standards. She enjoys a lot of stuff that I think is horrible. Even she was like, I didn't really like. She was criticizing the fact that the henchman just flipped on a dime based on Snow White knowing their name. And if my mum is doing that, it's like, oh, Disney, you have like a very big stinker on your hands. Lord Triton for $10 says, "Biggest limit of AI is still what's in its database. I tried using one to make a pick, but no matter how I phrase it, I couldn't get what I wanted because I didn't have the reference like what I envisioned." This is the limitations of AI, but this is where artists have an advantage because I can get the AI to make whatever I want because I can feed it the reference, the beginning sketch, or fix up the image in Photoshop and guide it to the conclusion I want. And so, you're absolutely right. But that's why talented people are still going to be needed, even with AI tools, to get those specific results that they want. Even as it improves and gets better, you're always going to need someone guiding it at the helm. But you're very right to point that out. Brandon Dutriel for $2 says, "Wouldn't the volume be considered AI?" So do you know the volume? How it's a box they film in where it has digital backgrounds and stuff. Oh yeah, there are heaps of equivalents with tools and methods that industry has been using that's like AI for ages. Photoshop is full of AI-founded filters, 100%. And so it's so hypocritical, these artists that came out saying, yeah, if you use AI, boycott you completely, when they're using Photoshop and all these other AI filters and stuff like that to improve their workflow, use tools to get a result quicker and easier. And funny because when Photoshop came about, there were people saying, "Oh, if you use Photoshop, you're cheating." And it's the same thing, man. But now everyone's saying AI is a cheat and all this stuff. It's just what goes around, comes around. It's
well, I'm drawing digitally right now. It's totally cheating. I can work so much faster than I can on paper.
Exactly. And there were traditional people criticizing digital.
As one of them.
Yeah, were you?
Oh yeah.
You've come around though.
I just love traditional tools, and I still go back and like I'll do stuff traditionally. I'm like, oh, I miss this, but this is just a lot faster.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, I enjoy drawing with a pencil more than digital. I find it a more enjoyable experience because I get it. For me, I don't know. There's a connection to the line work much more directly for me, and I'm saying that as someone who loves AI tools, right? And so I actually input my hand drawn stuff as references to enhance with AI. But yeah, the volume is a very interesting equivalence. David Smart for $2 says, "Hail the extended fellowship! I just subscribed. Legend! Thank you, man. Appreciate you."
Extended fellowship.
Nathan Cassidy for $4.99 says, "Disney course corrected from the centers into the sea line. They can't catch a break even if they tried." Yeah, right. They tried to fix Snow White, and this is the result. Like, it's a terrible film, but they reshot and everything. And it was like, oh.
They're trying to correct the wrongs of the anime, and they failed once again.
Yes.
It turns out if you like the whole thing about wokeness is that what they're really trying to do, whatever they say, what they're really trying to do is take the humanity out of all of these things. Trying to take the love, the connection, the human condition. Anything human must be gutted from these movies because anything human is offensive.
Thank you, Nathan Cassidy. He meant to say iceberg instead. So we got you, mate. And then Nathan Cassidy again for $20. He says, "I've been verbally slapping down a lot of commenters who've been shouting at streamers who are playing Assassin's Creed Shadows because it would promote the game because I've never seen a bad game do well after getting trashed on YouTube." Exactly. Like, when something is legitimately bad, people giving it exposure for how bad it is does not help it. Does not help it at all. So yeah, it's an odd argument, but I agree with you completely, Nathan. And then Boog for 20 MX says, "Will Lilo and Stitch suffer because of Zegler?"
No,
I think Lilo and Stitch is going to do well. Having said that, I think people who are upset with Disney as a result of the Snow White thing, there might be some people who just won't watch anything Disney as a result, but I think that's quite small. Lilo and Stitch, the live action actually looks good. Yeah, and I'm saying that as someone who's a critic of Disney.
I agree, and not to mention the fact that for people to understand out there, the demo for Lilo and Stitch is a completely different demographic than Snow White. It's also coming out right at the heart of the Memorial Day weekend here in the U.S., spilling into the summer. It's going to have a good long set of legs. The next thing Disney has to worry about is Thunderbolts. That comes out the first week of May, the first weekend of May. And then Lilo and Stitch comes out, I think, May 22nd, 23rd, that Memorial Day weekend. I think, look, I've already predicted out there, I think Lilo and Stitch, with as good as that trailer looks, and I'm a big Lilo and Stitch fan, the original from 20-something years ago now. My kids loved it. We all saw the trailer. We all got excited by it. Like, this looks like they actually did a good job. That should be the next billion-dollar hit for Disney globally. Yeah. It really, really should. And it should not have a problem getting there at all. Short of the movie coming out and then everybody seeing it and going, "Ooh, that was
Richard Ziegler's in it."
Yeah, I get. Word of mouth will determine a lot. Going off the trailer, I think the trailer has done some simple things but important things with it. It looked very faithful. Okay, Lilo sounds like Lilo. I actually couldn't even tell it sounded like exactly, if you put that animation, I thought it would be the same, right? Stitch looks like Stitch. It feels very faithful, which almost is like an acknowledgement of respect when it's like the Stitches style. Because instead of like Zegler saying we're changing it because the prince is stalking it and she takes a dump on it and all the things like, then that's turning. This actually feels like, no, this is good and we're respecting what makes it good. But then also, they added some new things. The trailer had new interactions between Lilo and Stitch that were not in the original, and they were 100% authentic to the characters. Like, it felt completely perfect Stitch interactions and Lilo interactions, which also gave the sense that this is an authentic adaptation that is being faithful to the original. And you might be getting a little bit more on top of the original animation, because they showed some more stuff. And that's interested me. And because that was in line and faithful, that's got my so far interest, like I said. And so it's a simple formula. That's all you kind of need to do. Don't upset the original fans. Don't subvert it. Be faithful. And the things that you're expanding on, make it make sense, make it fit, and make it good. And as a result, I think it'll do pretty well. But so far, I don't know what can happen. All right. There's a non-controversy about it because Lilo's sister is like, she's a shade too pale. And so hypercritical, progressive.
These guys get psycho over just the slightest difference in skin tone.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it wasn't a big deal. Why are you getting upset when a character is race changed? Why are you getting all upset like that? Right?
So we're the bad guys for saying, hey, how come Snow White isn't white? That we're the bad guys, but they're like, hey, you should kill yourself because your actresses are one shade too light.
And by the way, I would object if they made like a Hawaiian character white, but they're not doing. She is Hawaiian. She's a shade too pale for them. It's crazy, right? Because I'm all about keep it accurate, keep it authentic. And if they race change a darker skin character white, I think no objection. And if they do it in constantly where they change white characters black, it's like, no, stay true to the original. But this isn't even that, and they're losing their minds. It shows how hypocritical, because it's not about all the arguments they said before about representation, diversity, or anything like that. All it is they want less white people on screen. That's all it comes
That's what I was going to say. This is the difference between, especially at least here in the U.S., this is the difference between the right and the left. The right is going to call out when a studio radically alters the ethnicity of the original character. The left over here is going to get pissed off even though you cast the right ethnicity, but the skin tone wasn't the right shade of brown. Yes. This is the stupidity that I have to deal with on a daily basis here. I mean, it's just let Stitch come out and talk about his family, okay? And just leave the rest alone, bitch.
You do that far too well.
I've been doing this one for about 20 years, Ohana.
Right. Oh my gosh. Look, this has been a wild stream. It's been a wild week. It's been a lot of fun. Valiant, dude, thanks so much for joining us as well.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Oh, dude, our pleasure. Genuinely. Thank you to everyone. Is there anything that you want to mention as we're starting to wrap up, Valiant?
No, we've got the live show every month or every Sunday and Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's New York time for all my international friends out there. We'll have some more videos coming out this week, clips from the live show Sunday. Shad, we got to get you back on soon, my man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's do it. And but no, thanks for having me. It's been a blast. I enjoyed the hell out of this.
Oh, it's been great fun.
Yeah.
Dude, thanks for coming on. Hey, Lit Dev, anything you want to mention?
Nothing much yet. Just usual Maury nonsense every weekday around 8:35 a.m. Eastern. Go over all this nonsense every day because it never stops.
It's good casual fun. I enjoyed popping in for the one because I was up late enough to catch it. Usually I'm in bed by that time. But it was great because, again, Australia. And Mike, you got something that you're wanting to share as well?
Well, if you just wanted to see what I was working on while we were talking.
Dude,
love
it.
Nice.
It's Nobody's Business page, I don't know, 67.
See, that is so, like, again, this is one of the things that AI is, I'm not sure it'll ever be able to compete with, because that level of dynamic perspective and interaction between characters is beyond AI. You're never going to be able to do that unless you have a direct reference to build off of. And so, Mike, I think your job is your job is secure for a good while into the future. So. It's great. But the thing is, though, AI can, assist workflows, enhance, that can help out with coloring. And
I use AI for like backgrounds and stuff and cars. Not that I just plop them in there, but I'll use them as the pencils and then I'll ink over them because it's like
Oh, it's the same as people using 3D
photographs.
assets for backgrounds and stuff, or photographs.
Photograph.
Like,
Yeah.
like comic artists have been doing that for years.
Forever.
But AI is beyond the pale.
Look, it was cheating when they would. I personally, it would cheat when they like take the photograph and then they just put the photograph in the background.
Put it in without drawing over it.
That I hate. But if you're gonna trace it, because it's like you don't have to redraw this.
Oh yeah,
New York City. I mean, you can if you want, but you're just going to waste an
also,
extra day.
and comic artists have reused assets where they might draw a building and then just copy paste the building in there.
Oh, I do that all. Here, hold on. Yeah. I did that on. I did that on this page. I just like this is a background. I drew on a different page and then just copy pasted it, and then it's
exactly
same one here, same one there. It's like I'm not going to redraw the same damn bricks 3 times on one page. What's the point?
Exactly, and it saves you time. And of course, you're using a digital. It's because you're drawing it digitally. You can do that so easily by hand. But it was like, I just find it so funny the hypocritical arguments people have against AI when equivalent things have been done with digital art and other things constantly. And AI can really help out, with coloring. But also, what I'm interested, and I'm not sure, like I really want to do this with a future project where use AI to make variant versions of like a traditionally drawn comic book. And so you could have like an enhanced version, which adds more kind of detailed rendering to make it almost look like a 3D, animated image or something like that to get to that level of enhancement and things. Like it can expand what is available to your audience based on just your single drawings, but it's not going like it can't replace some of the dynamic poses that you can just draw by hand and come up with, not for a long time yet, especially fight scenes like that, because that just looks great. I love it. Love your work.
Thank you.
Awesome. And everyone, you know where I am. Thank you for everyone joining us here on the Culture Crusade. We appreciate you all. Once again, Valiant, appreciate you, mate, coming on. And we will see everyone later. So as always, stay on watch.